Welcome back to the Brennan Page. I'm Dwayne Page.
And this is Kyle Brennan. Tonight we have the luxury of speaking with Nick Fanti, who Dwayne and I have known for years, but I had to look up his whole list of accolades because they are a bit extensive. So I'm going to read these off a little bit uh, ad lib here. In 2015, Nick won the Carl Yastrzemski Award, given to Suffolk County's best player. Following that season, Nick was selected in the 31st round by the Philadelphia Phillies. In 2016, in 11 games, he went 7-0 with a 1.57 ERA. In 2017, Nick was selected to the Class A All-Star Game after posting with a 9-2 record, a 2.5 ERA, and having thrown a complete game no-hitter. Following that 2017 season, Nick represented Team Italy in the World Baseball Classic and threw 2 scoreless innings against Puerto Rico. That's the Puerto Rico, with, Yadier and Javi Baez and all those guys.
Good baseball players.
Fast forward to 2024, Nick is pitching in the Atlantic League for the Long Island Ducks and was recognized as the Pitcher of the Month.
Being friends with Nick since we were probably 8 or 9 years old, it's crazy to hear his story from his perspective because, up until he got drafted and played professionally, I had experienced so much of his baseball life with him. I think this is a great episode for so many reasons to hear somebody who I would describe as the ultimate teammate, the ultimate competitor, and an incredible person. It was easy to root for him. It still is. And I'm grateful that he was able to share his perspective through his story. And another thing I'd like to add is I'm super pumped to hear that he's helping out coaching his high school baseball team this season. And shout out to Hopog. I hope that you guys have some great success this year and taking the knowledge from a very, like Kyle said earlier, very well decorated athlete. Love you, Nick.
Yeah, that's really well said. As he mentioned at the back end of the episode, this is the first time that he completely went through from like A to Z his whole journey of professional baseball, and we talked about his high school experience also, and we got into his mentality a little bit and what that uh, the evolution of him was like. Um, so yeah, I, uh, I can't say anything better about him than what you've already laid out. So enjoy this one, guys.
Yep, let's do it. Yeah, that was a quality first. Like I don't know how you felt, but when we first started going, because I remember like it was yesterday, the Titan storm. Because I have this picture actually of me in the batting cage when we went to Tennessee when we were 11U, which was our first travel tournament that we actually went away on. We went from there to Cincinnati, which is where the pajama pants story happened. But when we went to Tennessee, I have this picture of me in the batting cage, and I just look fucking miserable because I think it was just really hot and I was all sunburnt and miserable.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know how you felt, but I think you kind of described it perfectly, where you said it felt like we played every single day, and I loved it. Like I loved it. Just playing. I felt like it was travel ball, travel, go away on a tournament, come home, play little league games, play travel games. It was like every single day.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade it for anything, honestly. And also, like, for me, I loved playing in the summer. I loved playing in the spring. For whatever reason, every time I got to the fall, I was burnt out and just done. I was like, and I think the first couple of years, my dad was like, "Hey, just play fall ball, blah blah blah," and like he was just trying to keep me like involved because like other people were involved. And then I kind of got like the gist like after a few years, I was like, "Hey, I still love baseball. I'm just like, it's time to play basketball." Like I was ready for the next season to start. Um, and I think part of it was like it was getting colder. Like I did not get along with cold weather at first. But then later on in high school, that's when I actually played my best. But
What do you think that's from?
like why I started playing better or why I
Yeah,
didn't want to play fall ball.
the playing better in the cold.
Well, it was really until like my senior year, I didn't start playing better, and I think I was just um, by that point, I think I was just more prepared, um, and it didn't matter like what the weather was. I just felt like super ready for the season, and um, because I remember before that year, I was playing basketball, and I was also throwing a lot more bullpens before the season than I had in years prior. So by the time like whatever the first game is, like let's say it's April or March 30th, I was at towards my top velo. I was like built up for a few innings already, and so I kind of hit the ground running. And plus, like I just had goals that year too, and started to get that interest that winter.
So you're playing basketball in the fall, and then you're doing a lot of baseball prep sort of on the side. You're heading into the season with some goals in mind. You feel like you're prepared, and you're also fresh and excited for the year. Versus in the fall, it's getting colder. You're worn down. Like your interest in it's less, and weather's not cooperating, and you've got other things like holidays coming up and football season, and just other things going on.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard to like exactly put my finger on it, like why I just it just ran its course for me, like in that particular season, or not even in that season, just like in the like every year, it just seemed like once like October 1st hit, baseball was done for me. And like I said, it was probably something to do with like here comes basketball, or earlier on I played some football or volleyball, and I wanted to just go focus on that, and um and just kind of be a kid at that time.
I felt like coming off our summers too, because I'm 95% sure that the numbers are correct, but we played over 100 games over the summer too, like every summer. So it's kind of hard when you're switching gears like that to go in and playing, a weekend doubleheader or maybe 4 games in a weekend or like a weekend tournament in the fall after having school all week. And, you know, when a lot of other players play different sports, we weren't always on the same fall teams too. Like the fall teams are kind of jumbled around a little bit. And so, it was just, I completely understand. I didn't mind catching in cooler weather though, honestly, for the fall.
Yeah, that was another part of it too. I forgot was how all the teams got like mixed around a lot, and you were playing with a bunch of new guys in the fall, which I never really minded because um
You're a
you
social
know
butterfly.
I wouldn't say I'm a social butterfly, but
It's some kind of animal.
yeah, yeah, definitely an animal.
Jeez.
Definitely some kind of creature.
So it sounds like you're in like high school range, like 15, 16 years old at this point, and you have basketball to look forward to, and you're a bit burnt out for the summers. Um, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, like probably from like 12 to 16 was like that period of whenever fall hit, like I had to shut it down.
I think that's important to mention that like it is a seasonal thing. Now, do you love the game always? Sure. Are you committed to it? Yes, but like there are times where you're like, I don't want to be doing this. Um, and I think that's relatable, but it's not something you can always say out loud, especially like while you're playing, and especially if other people are playing. Like in order for you to um, take a fall off, you have to say no to these people that you just spent all summer with. And there's also like recruiting pressures, or hey, you're supposed to get to this point or whatnot, or there's some tournament and we need you, and these are your friends at this point. So um, then when you're doing it as your job as a professional, you're supposed to be like, yeah, I want to be doing this, I want to be here, the whole thing. And if you're coaching year round, it's a lot. Um, so I like that you bring that up because I feel very similar. Or there's
Yeah.
parts of the year and frankly parts of the season where it's like, you wish there's other things you like to be doing. Maybe not instead, maybe not questioning baseball at all, like in general, but listen, there's times where it wears on you, man.
Right. I should make clear, it's not like a hey, I hate this. I'm never gonna pick up a ball again. It was like, hey, this ran its course for me this year, like you said, and I, whether it was a good year or a bad year, it was just let's go play basketball. Let's see, like, I just and plus I had friends in that as well. Like the reason I played basketball up through high school, 12th grade was all my best friends was the basketball team. And I didn't, not that I didn't take it seriously, like I tried, but you know, I I didn't give it the same effort that I did for baseball. And I think the one adjustment I did end up making because of stopping baseball early was that okay, I needed to start it a little bit earlier to get ready for the next season. That kind of came along in high school.
Plus, it gave us a reason to pop out to some freaking hot dog basketball games. I had been to my fair share of those. Me and Jeff would make our way over there, watch you play a little bit. That was always fun.
Yeah, you're looking at academic all league senior year right now.
But so going because early on, it was from my perception too was guy could hit, guy could play the outfield better than probably anybody I knew, and the pitching I just knew you just didn't love at an early age. So around when was it kind of like, all right, I like this more, or was it just you were getting better at it and then you started to like it more? Was there like I need to take this a little bit more seriously? Was there a conversation that Big Nick had with you and was like, listen, you're a lefty. This is something we should entertain. Like, what was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, he was always kind of on me, like not on me, but like he was in my ear about it a little bit. Um, but I would say it did come with success for me. Um, Once I like was confident I could throw strikes, and all of a sudden like you're seeing guys like they're not even close to touching it, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm pretty good at this. Um, at first it came in seventh grade, I remember, and I was pitching I started the first game of the year for them on the seventh grade team, and I remember whatever it was, like the first three innings, I went like nine up, nine down, nine strikeouts. And I walked off the field, my shoulder was bugging me. And I was like, hey, coach, you got to take me out. My shoulder hurts. And like he was shocked. But that was probably the first time, like once I was like, okay, I'm playing with kids my age, my grade, like this is fun now. I guess it kind of came with that. That's how it started. But then like I didn't pitch at all during the summer still. And I got better from the shoulder. I didn't pitch the rest of that year. And then eighth grade rolled around and I was fine. I decided I didn't want to pitch again. And I
Nick, I'm
also,
curious, what about pitching didn't you like?
I think it was probably like an insecurity of it. And also, I just was not confident in myself at the time to pitch. It seemed like, you know, I like to take my chances playing the outfield and hitting. Like I knew no matter what, like I was gonna play defense and have fun playing defense. And hitting was what it was. Like if I had a good day or bad day, whatever. As long as I got to play the outfield, catch a few fly balls, throw some people out, like that was kind of my thing. I had fun doing that. And I think I just wanted to do that and thought like throwing guys out at first base from center field was like the way baseball worked up until you're 40. Like I don't know if that's how like my 12-year-old mind spun it. Um, but eighth grade rolled around and I was like, okay, I'm back in the outfield. That's it. Now the coach saw the way I threw and he was like, hey, like you're gonna pitch. So he every Friday he would make me pitch to our hitters And some of my friends still talk about it. Like, we were so scared standing in the box. So here you are throwing like 80 miles an hour. And like, I didn't even want to play baseball that year, but we were just hanging out with our friends. And on Fridays, whenever we weren't playing games, we were scrimmaging our own team. I had to throw like at least in 2 innings or something, but I was all over the place. And then that winter, for whatever reason, I just got pitching lessons because I guess I decided, like, okay, I think what happened was I moved to the big fields with, like, because I played technically like a year up, even though Dwayne is my age, but like it was a year up to me at the time. Um, I once I got to the big field, like I wasn't having success hitting. I could barely get the ball out of the infield. So like now you're like, oh, I can't do anything now. Okay, but I still have a good arm. I should try to pitch. Maybe I am a pitcher. So I think you kind of get keyholed into doing it and trying it just because you're not having success doing other things. And then I ended up getting lessons in like going into ninth grade, and I don't know what clicked. I think it was just the guy telling me how, like, he was mostly blowing smoke, and I was like, yeah, yeah, I could throw strikes totally. And then that year I started pitching on varsity, but for like the first 2 years of high school, even 3 years, I would pitch on varsity, but not pitch in the summer. And I really didn't become like full time until pro ball.
For when, because I remember that too specifically because it was like, because again, I do want to mention that you were somebody who played like a premium defense in the outfield. Like you were an exceptional defender, and with the hitting, like you said, even though it wasn't pop, like wasn't much juice, like you're a guy that could bunt for a hit, you're a guy that could get base hits here and there. Like you were competitive enough offensively as a travel baseball player. And like, do you think that the reason why you didn't pitch over the summer was that due to injury? Was that because of the pitchers around you just being a little bit more, I guess, polished? Like, what do you think the reasoning behind that was?
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit of both, but mostly like some of those guys like going into the summer was they were pitching all school year, and like they had the reputation, and it was like, hey, let's go with those guys. Like, I'm the center fielder. Um, I just think back to, I mean, this was after we played together, but probably like my 17-year-old Titans team was really freaking good, and we had like 7 options before me, and it was like, I'm perfectly okay with that. I'd rather play the outfield. Like, I'll be here if you need me, but and then I would pitch every now and again. And I didn't throw as well as them at the time, just because one, I think a lot of it is like internal, like your confidence. You feel you're like you're battling yourself and the hitter, and that's just not a good recipe for success.
Yeah, and the reason why I wanted to mention that was because again, like another picture that stands out in my mind is you pitching when we were, I think it was in Michigan in the NABF World Series. I was playing fucking first base, and you were pitching, and it was just an uncomfortable day for us both. And for me, it was more so like you had mentioned earlier, that fear of the whole ground ball thing. And I'm glad to hear you touch on the internal dialogue and the internal feelings because that's something that I like to talk about a lot with hitters in general, just general confidence. Because when you don't have that confidence in yourself, it's really you and the batter in your situation versus yourself instead of you versus the batter, which is, I think that's a very good point to bring up.
Yeah, and I think on the big fields, it's great you brought up Michigan because I tell people like that time I pitched was probably the first time that like I had like real success on the mound against like pretty good competition, and was like, oh wow, like I remember I pitched deep into the game. I think we lost 1-0.
Yeah, that was the Toronto Mets, right? I think it was that team.
Yes, yes. And the kid hit a homer, and Faison like almost robbed it, I think. Um
Yeah.
but it was one of those times where it was just a confidence builder. Like you got through the game, um, and I think I just needed like more good experiences like that. And I just for a while it was just like there'd be like glimmers of it or like little spotty areas of success, but I could never string it like consecutively for really up until my senior year.
Yeah, because I was thinking about this before we even got on today, was when we played with the Rangers, like there were times where you pitched and had success. I was thinking about that too. But like a lot of your success, I think when we were with the Rangers was a lot of it was in the outfield, and there were some appearances you made. Like I think you might have had one in Myrtle where you threw well, and I was kind of like, oh shit, like Nick's got some freaking talent, and a very good memory on your part about the Michigan tournament, because I remember that mound visit that Greg had with you in the middle of that game where you were starting to get deep into it. And I think it might have been after the home run he came out after that, and it was just kind of like, all right, let's go. And it just looked different. It looked different than when you had previously gone out there in that tournament.
Yeah, it wasn't like I was hoping anymore. It was like, hey, I got this. And I think that mentality, like I had glimmers of that really up until pro ball. I mean, I know I got consistent my senior year, but like I never really developed that mentality solidified until I got to pro ball.
This is so interesting for me to hear because I didn't know you at this point in high school, even though we're not too dissimilar in age. We didn't overlap in playing with each other or anything. And from knowing you once you were in pro ball and pitching at the affiliate level and going through all that, and then from always just Tom Downey bringing you up, who had coached all of us and was one of the main scouts involved in signing you. He always described you as someone that like could pitch, meaning like had command, pitchability, and like I've seen you, I've thrown with you, I've seen you throw at the pro level, and based on your as Tom would say, the back of your baseball card, like you had command of pitches.
Mm.
So it wasn't like you were. A lot of times when players are drafted, they've been throwing 10 miles an hour harder than everyone the whole time, and they can never find the zone, and some team takes a chance on them just because of the stuff. Whereas, not to suggest that you didn't have good stuff for your age or any of that, but you had a good body to grow into, and you could pitch. So to hear that that wasn't the case, and certainly doesn't sound like your mentality at a younger age is remarkable to me because I think people can look at someone like yourself just based on where you've gone and what you're capable of in your 20s and think that it was just always the case.
Yeah, and it's something that definitely took time to develop because I I don't know, like throughout high school, I like I always say Michigan was that moment when I developed the mentality of like, hey, like if I'm pitching, like you're out. Um, like again, that was just like a spotty thing that happened. Um, but once I started to build a little bit of success through high school, like I remember my sophomore year, I went like 8-1 on the mound. Um, but at the time, it's like, oh, I'm at Hop Hog, like we're not that good. Like I always wanted to compare myself to like the travel guys around me, and like it's not a knock on Hop Hog or anything. Like when you play school ball, but like I'd say like the travel ball that we were playing was so good, and like we were exposed to so much so young, or you know that thought of like, hey, there's bigger fish in the sea was always in my head. Like no matter how good I do here, like I know there's some beasts out there, and even in the neighboring towns.
I mean, yeah, we definitely got exposed to some of that, but to your credit, dude, it was impressive, and we have that summer. right? We have that summer where you get those couple glimpses. And then I would say for me, it was junior year. We always have that hot pog. Your junior year, my senior year, we have that hot pog versus Connecticut scrimmage in the beginning of the year where we famously always run on that fucking hill next to your field. I hate that fucking place.
Yeah, and
Um,
then you proceed to run all over us usually. So
yeah. But this is where it got interesting because after this experience, our junior year, other than, us hanging out separately and Jeff and I going and watching you play basketball and just, going over for barbecues and hanging out with Big Nick and, having his famous baked clams and shit. The scrimmage my senior year, your junior year, was the last time I had experienced you pitching prior to you getting drafted. So my last experience is what I mentioned earlier was I walked against you on like four incredibly wild pitches. And I was like, holy fucking shit. I thought you were gonna smoke me in the head. I was like, bro, I thought we were good, man.
yeah,
So that was my last experience watching you pitch. And then, my freshman year in college, I'd obviously, I don't know how your summer went for you, that 17U summer. If you wanted to talk a little bit about that, and then going into your senior year, because we're talking about pretty historic stuff for you.
yeah. So honestly, that summer was a roller coaster. So that was after my junior year, and that junior year I started off pretty rough. I had something. There was something with my shoulder going on too. Like I kind of ran into some shoulder issues like a few times. And I remember I started off that year in school ball on the mound 0-3. We faced a couple really good teams and I just wasn't ready. That was when I learned I needed to get ready earlier in the year. Um, and then I ended up pitching well to finish out the season. But that summer was, it's time to get recruited. And again, like I'm starting to throw harder. I'm getting the fastball, like I'm touching 87, 88 probably during the summer. And I'm starting to get in front of schools, and it's just not like, again, it's not all clicking for whatever reason. I'm having a decent outing, and then I'm having the worst thing you've ever seen. Um, so I remember specifically at Stony Brook, and this was like a tough one for me, was I had the who's who of Northeast colleges there. Um, there was everyone was there to see me and obviously like the rest of the team, but like I was starting that game. I remember we were playing the Smithtown Bulls, and my best friend PJ Contreras, he was a catcher at Hop Hog as well, was batting third or fourth, and then another guy Nick Grande who played some pro ball was batting in the other spot. So one was third, one was fourth.
Pretty good players.
Yeah, like and this was a loaded Bulls team too, just in general. I think the leadoff hitter was Nick Attardi. So I'm going into this game. I'm pumped. I got a bunch of schools I want to go to. They're all there. And I remember I think I get the first out, maybe the first two, and then PJ gets in the box. I get two strikes on him and he starts battling me. He's fouling pitches off. He's fouling pitches off. And like at the time I was like I can get by with a fastball mostly. And I'm like, "Oh man, like I don't really know how to spin it." like or for a strike at least. And I can't spin it. He starts working the count. He probably has like a 12 pitch walk. So I'm like, all right, no harm, no foul, whatever. Good on you, PJ. Nick Grande gets up, same idea. 12 pitches, walk him, or he hits a single or something. And then the floodgates open in front of everybody. And I got taken out. I don't think I got another out the rest of the inning. 6 runs. And all the schools I had been talking to started to vanish. And the only guy that reached back out was Tyler Kavanaugh at Marist at the time. I think now he's at GW. And he goes, "Hey man, like tough day at the office, but you know, I see I see the hype basically. Like you're a good pitcher, you throw hard. Those guys got to you early and blah blah blah. Like he made me feel good and like it, and I had like a sense of loyalty to that. So I think that ultimately played a big role in me ending up committing to Marist as well. Was like I felt like even on my worst day, all these schools that like were interested, they vanished, but he stayed there and was like, "Hey, like I need to see you again because like I know what it can look like, and I don't think you're a finished product yet." And I always appreciated that about him. I don't know if that
No,
answered your original question, but
no,
go ahead.
100%, no,
Yeah,
100%, and especially being a coach, being a varsity coach, and being somebody who trains hitters, catchers. When it comes around, when it's been around recruiting time for certain guys, that's what the conversation is everybody wants to go to quote unquote the best program, whatever the fuck that means. And my thing is like keep your head on a swivel, be somewhere where you're cared about, be somewhere where you're in the plan, be somewhere that you're going to develop. And it kind of sounds like that's the impression that you got from coach, was that this is somebody who cares about me and that sees what I could be, which is nice. That's, I'm sure that was really comforting for you, especially after a start like that.
totally. And even coming off the school year that year, I thought I was kind of going backwards a little bit because sophomore year I had been all county. Junior year I like I went backwards. I was only all league. It kind of felt like I should have done more. And so I just kind of thought I was regressing and like starting to fall back behind. And I was kind of going through these tough outings and I had coach at the time, Bobby DeMichael, like he was working with me a ton. Paul Parcelano, he was working with me a ton. Like they were just trying to instill confidence in me um, throughout that whole summer and just trying to put me in situations where I would succeed. And it just felt like every time I gained momentum, they'd give me that next like challenge, and for whatever reason, I just couldn't get over the hump. And usually it was the first inning. And I come to learn that like as I got older, I was just getting ready too quick. Usually, like it was just I wasn't ready for the first inning. I just kind of would throw like 10 warm-ups and be like, "All right, arms loose. Let's go play." Um Not like, "Hey, let me locate this pitch. Let me get the curveball ready. Let me get the changeup ready." Like there's I had to learn that art even in the pro ball a little bit. Um but that's just part of the growing pains of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you bring up some really good points there, some things to take away, and especially if you're talking to a junior or maybe a sophomore that might be getting some like early notice, that's maybe experiencing some of the things that you experienced, then like is there any words of advice you could give to guys that are maybe going through something like that?
Yeah, I would tell them don't ride the wave too much like the way I did. You got to figure out a way to stay here as much as you possibly can. Um and I know if, like the pressure of it is it's so much easier said than done because like everyone around you is committing. There's it like it should be me. Like I should get that opportunity. Why is he coming to see him? Like I oh I he finally came to my game and I went over. I played like shit. Blah blah blah. I for me some of the things I would say is like I can almost guarantee you someone's coming to watch you play that it's usually not about how well you did. It's about how good you carry yourself. Um,
That's what I've been waiting to hit on because
yeah,
it sounds like at this outing with all the schools there, and you don't do well, and that's like a crushing thing, right? That Maris coach had to have seen something in the way that you handled that. Obviously, he saw what was in there. That was probably, from a coach's perspective, pretty easy. You got a lefty that's got some uh, ability, talent there. But the way that you must have handled yourself with that. And as I'm listening to you talk through this, where it's like you have a couple good outings and then like you feel like you go backwards. And then you're building some confidence and then they give you some new challenge, whether it's trying some new grip on a pitch, or maybe they knew that you're getting away with something mechanically, or they want to add something, whatever. They're giving you that next thing, and then it's like it's overwhelming you a little bit, and then you feel like you're going backwards. Um, it sounds like you're going through that like you said, a wave. You're on your way up, and then it comes crashing down. You're on your way up, and it comes crashing down. I have to imagine that you responded to the crash well enough where it was time to come back up again, and for that to repeat that cycle over and over again. Um, and overall, even though it's volatile, you seem, just from listening, that you seem to be trending upwards despite the negatives. Um, is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. But at the time, like I don't think I looked at it like that. But I think you're 100% right. Like if you looked at the overall like trend, or like the as time went on, what direction was I going? It was 100% like this with like little dips. I think the thing that helped me mentally too is I also played the outfield, and like I was under the impression at the time like, hey, I'm gonna two-way at school, or at least hit and then maybe pitch.
LOL.
Like my brain was like, hit first, play the field, pitch next. So like as long as I was playing the outfield well and hitting well, which I think I
So,
hit really well that summer. So I
so your
was like,
identity wasn't completely "I am a pitcher." There was
exactly.
there was
Like,
more to it.
yeah.
The dude liked to contribute to winning. Like if that's one thing that I could definitely say about you, other than the fact that I loved having you as a teammate and love having you as a friend, was you're a fucking competitor. You know what I mean? Like you were doing whatever it took to win the game.
Without a doubt. Like it to me it was just like playing the whole game was the best part. Like I did not see at the time the not the value, but like the fun in like, hey, let's pitch today, and then like you don't get to play again for 5 or 6 days. Like to me it was like, what's the point? Um Obviously now it's like my favorite job in the world, but um
Yeah, well, that transition to becoming a PO cannot be easy, especially if you have some abilities in other parts of the game, and you were also, like to Dwayne's point, like really competitive, and you were just concerned with helping your teammates win.
mhm,
Dwayne and I haven't gone through that PO identity shift, but that's a big change.
definitely. I mean, at first you fight it a little bit, and then once you get there it's like, oh, this is nice. Like the hardest part about it is if you don't do well and sitting on that for a few days, it's definitely a mental grind in its own way. Um, as everything in this game could be. Um,
That's a key difference between a position player and a pitcher, where the grind of the position players, you're going up against like at any level, like whatever level you're at, the pitching is better than it was a year or two prior for you as you're moving up through the levels. So it's like each time you're playing, there's some dude that's got something that's a new challenge, and you're just constantly going up against it. And there's a lot of failure in hitting in particular. And then just from a defensive standpoint in base running, like the workload's high and it's frequent, so it wears you down in that it never lets up. From a pitcher though, like if there's less to do, so you get your days where it's deliberately, hey, I'm going to warm up, I'm going to throw a lot, I'm going to throw a bullpen, and then I'm going to sprint after, and then I'm going to do a full lift, and I'm going to crush myself, but then tomorrow I get the chill, and like it's very planned. But
yep,
if the outing doesn't go well, so from a physical standpoint, it's better that way, um, or at least there's periods of relative relaxation, but from a mental standpoint, it you kind of go stir crazy. I can imagine.
totally.
Uh,
Especially if it doesn't go well, because then you think I have to change, and I think and I never went to college, but like in pro ball, it was like I have to change or else I'm gonna get released, and that's like which is like as an 18, 19 year old, it's like funny. I kind of thought like that, um, because one thing I kind of noticed over the years was like they kind of give you till you're like 21 years old, and I feel like generally speaking, they ask themselves once you turn 21, like, would I draft this guy today? And then they say like yes or no, and then they make their decision. Um, but if I didn't pitch well, I thought it was like an identity problem, not like, hey, this pitch didn't go your way today, then this snowballed into this. Like you let this error bother you, and then you walk the guy, and then they hit a double when you would have been out of the inning. Um, like where was your head during that time? Like it just that's kind of how I started to look at it was um instead of it being like I didn't succeed today because I was bad, it was like, okay, I didn't succeed today because of like a few key moments. And then you try to identify those, and I'm not going to say make sure they don't happen again, but like, you know, I guess make
Yeah,
sure they
you
don't happen
focus
again.
on the controllables.
Yeah,
It's such a good point you bring up where, or just being honest about like the consequences of things not going your way. Whether it's in pro ball, I might get released. In college, it might be I might not start again. I might not play. I might not get recruited. I might not make the team. Different things. And in hindsight, it's easy to know if that feeling that pressure was, I don't want to say warranted, but maybe as urgent as it felt in the moment. But in the moment, like you don't know. Like you said, like at this point, if you're drafted out of high school, and the way that the league, minor leagues, and all that was at the time, at this time for you, if you're like 19, 20, and there's some things you're doing really well, but there's some things you're struggling with, that player in the moment might be thinking, if I don't figure this out, like my career's over. But in hindsight, you might realize, like, listen, like that decision is probably not made for a little bit, and you're closer than you realize.
yeah,
But as a player, you're not going to know that. And even if a coach says it, it's hard to trust it. Um, it's just such a relatable
It's
thing.
almost impossible to trust that, Kyle, because they don't have that the knowledge and the experience that we have. You know what I mean? Like, if Nick, if you were to go back in time to yourself as an 18, 19-year-old that had just gotten drafted having a bad outing and said like, "Hey, listen, like this isn't too much of a problem. You need to focus on this, that, the other thing." Like you're probably still going to feel the way that you felt.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like it's hard to get that into people's heads, and or like the whole get back, you know what I mean? Like I've had guys struggle before that have had previous success and they're like, I just got to get back to this, and I'm like, bro, that shit's gone. You're like, I think you guys both described it perfectly when you guys talked about Nick yourself just trending in the right direction overall, rather than feeling in the moment like you're headed in the wrong direction. Like if it's hard for somebody to see that overall trending in that right direction because they don't it's so hard to fucking look at it, that even in just life shit too. It's hard to see if you're it's like working out. When you first start working out and you get those initial gains and you're like, shit, dude, I'm jacked, I'm getting big, whatever, like this is great, and then you plateau and then your body feels like shit and then you're like, what the hell's going on? And then but you don't realize that just by being disciplined and showing up and making a few small adjustments here and there, that you're headed in the right direction. It's hard to see.
Yeah, yeah. It's more like being process over result like oriented. Um, I mean, our our varsity coach at Hopog, Josh Gudis, you guys probably ran into him at some point.
Good dude.
Awesome guy. He always says like process over result, and it kind of like one of the examples he uses is like you go 3 for 3 with three bloopers, and you think you had a wonderful day, but you go 0 for 3 with three lasers all over the place, and then like you're going home, you're scheduling a hitting lesson with your guy, and you're wondering what's wrong. It's like you won those three at bats. You didn't win the three hits per se. Like, um, So it's just being more process over result
Nick,
oriented in
I'm
general.
gonna play devil's advocate. I will preface this by saying I agree with you. We're on the same page. Um, the counter argument to that is the process, and the process can be used as an excuse at times. Meaning, like, oh, it's okay. Like I tried hard. I hit my spot, and he just hit it really hard, and it's like it can be used in its worst way as like a shield from the reality of the results, and it can take you out of being competitive. Where it's like, oh, I hit a ball pretty well as center fielder, and we lost today, but like my process was good, or like I hit my spots, but they just fouled some tough pitches off, and um, how do you balance that for
Right.
you
It's
as
like it's
someone who
all
competes well, but also has learned that you can't focus on things outside of your control?
what's funny is like when you say that, immediately what pops in my mind is like and I am one of these people too, like when we're training and we're like people are really good at like pulling down 105 or something like that, like we're chasing velo, all that. I had a horrible day, like I got knocked around, but I sat 95, 98. Like, well, I mean, okay. Like when people try to reach for the wrong thing, that's kind of where my head went with what you were just saying. But um overall, I think what happened for me was like I was I had baseball IQ, and like I learned how to win, I guess, and what I needed to do to win first, and then I became a really good baseball player. Um, and I think part of that was like going all the way back to the beginning was essentially I played up with these guys. Um, at least in my brain, I was playing up. We were the same age, but I was a grade younger than these guys, and I always felt like I had to rise to the occasion to play with them. So that's what it became about first, and then um, from there, it was like, okay, let's focus on the sexy stuff. Let's throw hard. Let's spin the curveball. Let's throw a changeup. I think that I'm happy that that's how it went for me. It wasn't like I was completely like just. I guess I had tools, but like it wasn't like I was just this toolsy guy who like if I'm on first base with no outs and a pop up goes up and I'm just taking off. Like I wasn't just raw like that.
Yeah, you're alluding to something that's, I think, a bigger metaphor for what's going on in the game in general. Is you're competing first, you're trying to achieve certain results, as in just beating the other team and playing the game really well with good effort and being a good teammate and all of those things. And then you're learning to shift that towards more of a process over time versus starting in a process environment. For hitting, it's I'm crushing these balls off of a guy flipping it to me, but then I can't hit in the game. Or a pitcher who's like, yeah, I threw this ball. I'm 15 years old and I just hit 90 in the first time in a pull down, but I can't get out of the second inning because I'm, throwing the ball over the place and whatnot. Um, so it's that shift. That's a really good point you make of starting with the compete first and then honing it in versus starting in a fail-safe environment where everything's great and sexy and whatnot, and then getting your teeth kicked in when it doesn't work.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say it's funny because the other way, like starting in that environment with the tools and everything, it probably buys you more opportunity than my way. For certain people, like you know, the first time a guy throwing smoke, is gets rocked, like he's probably gonna get more opportunities than I would have if I didn't have success. Um, so I think that that's another thing where like there's two ends to it where one could be successful and so can the other, but I just feel like the way my process ended up being a strength for me. It was just like my baseball I wouldn't even call it IQ. It was just like my baseball feel was pretty good, like even coming out of high school. So
Yeah, no, I would completely agree with you there. I think it was just your overall experience as a baseball player just, helped lead you to when you did sort of acquire the tools that you needed to be successful at the levels that you've been at. They started to kind of come along, and then you were able to do what you did so well. Did you feel like going in, because again, I alluded to this a little bit earlier, talking about your senior season, was because you talked about your preparation going into that year. You spoke about your summer going into your senior year, having that up and down, but ultimately trending in the right direction. Um, was it, did you commit to Maris by the end of that summer, or was that like a fall commitment, or?
yeah, so that was like so that Stony Brook outing happened, I want to say sometime in June. And I probably had a few more tournaments that I kind of went to. I went to Georgia, had a similar experience there to the Stony Brook, just in front of the Southern schools, and just like really bad first inning, couldn't get out of it, and um, but like again, like I didn't let that completely destroy me because I still hit that inning or that game. So it was like, okay, like I still have something where I can contribute. So I'm not incredibly worried about this. And then I just had a started to get more interest once I started to gain more momentum on the mound again. And probably like the end of July, I want to say, I had an outing in New Jersey. Went like 6 innings, pitched well. And then I had a visit to Marist the next day. I was starting to get offers from different schools again, similar schools that were at the Stony Brook thing, and in my brain at the time I was like, "You're not loyal. You're just kind of like you're riding the wave basically." Um, so I kind of went into the Marist visit like they really have to mess this up for me not to want to go here. I went there. I loved the school, and uh, I liked the both coaches that I met, and just committed there. I think that was probably like August.
Nice. So that's, I mean, listen, that's a big moment in your life, I'm sure, making a commitment to a Division 1 school. Now, like, from that point to the end of the summer, I'm just curious because I don't think I've ever even asked you this. Like, was draft on your radar, like, at all? Like, was
No,
that like no?
no, not even. I wouldn't even say it was like really a thought until like the following year.
Okay,
Like the
okay,
following like even like early spring.
okay. So
So
like fall
Of your
ball
senior
rolls
year.
around, you shut down. Yeah, of your senior year.
yeah, so I want to say fall ball. I don't even think I played that year. I remember I was gonna play volleyball. I let some people talk me out of it because they were just like, "Oh, your shoulder, blah blah blah. Like hitting the volleyball, you're gonna blow up your shoulder." So I just let them talk me out of it. I kind of wish they didn't because I played volleyball in 10th grade and it was like the most fun I ever had playing a sport. And and then I played basketball that winter. Started my throwing a little bit earlier, and I was throwing bullpens towards the end of basketball. And I also was getting hurt in basketball a lot that year. I was kind of worried about baseball because I kept rolling my ankle that winter. And it was one of those like I every time I got it taped up, it would just roll again. I guess I just one of those things like once it happens, it just keeps happening.
Better stop
Um,
getting your freaking ankle snatched, bro.
yeah, it was funny. I we were playing a team and one of the players homered off me the previous season, and I went down and I'm on the ground like in pain, and he goes, "Oh shit, no more homers for me." I was like, "All right,
Dick.
yeah, asshole." um, but I started throwing my bullpens, and I was actually Matt Giuliano's doing a lesson. I remember because I had basketball practice at 5 usually, and then I was going to do my lesson after school or something. My basketball practice switched, so I had to do my lesson later. So I was throwing, and he started, like, the guy that was catching me, he was like, "Hey, like, you're starting to throw pretty hard." Like, and he would catch me with no gear, nothing. And it was Greg Arnold. He does lesson. He used to do lessons at a Match League. I don't know if he still does, but uh, he was like, "Hey, like, I don't know, like, if I'm comfortable, like, catching you without any gear. Like, we might have to bring someone." I was like, "Oh, all right." Like, I kind of just showed up after basketball and I was throwing. So a guy from the Hanks Yanks comes over and he's like, which is a travel team for those listening. It's not like the Yankees, but um, he goes, "Hey, like, do you want to come down to Tampa and we're gonna play some high school teams around there. We're gonna play near Steinbrenner Field. Like, would you be interested in that?" And like in my brain, I was like, "Oh, I want to play near like the Yankee spring training. That's super cool." I was a Yankee fan. Um, so we go down there. The first game we're playing against IMG Academy, and I'm starting, and it's like the coldest day in Florida history. Like, it was like 38 degrees and windy for some reason, but there was like 30 teams there for the third baseman on IMG. I don't remember who it was, but I think he ended up getting picked pretty high. First inning, I think I hit 90 and I might have struck him out. So then that was the first time I got interest from teams. It was the Orioles scout and the Phillies scout who ended up drafting me. Went over to my dad and gave him cards, and the Orioles guy had followed up, and I filled out like a draft card, or not a draft card, like a player info card. And that was like the first time I was like, "Oh wow, like you can really be seen anywhere, I guess." Um, and that was like my first interaction with them was like right before school ball my senior year.
Nick, I want to interrupt and ask you something. So you had an experience at Stony Brook where you pitched in front of 6, 7 uh, like important schools and it doesn't go well. And then it sounds like you have another experience down south in front of some important schools, a bunch of them you're starting, you know they're there, doesn't go well. Now you're pitching in front of a bunch of major league scouts and probably some other colleges maybe, against a really good team in a different environment, and it goes well. Is there? Tell me about the difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was partly numb to it with the weather, but I I remember just kind of being told right before the game, like, "Hey, like who are all these people back there?" Like, kind of asking them, and they were just like, "Oh, it's just every MLB organization representative is at this game today." And I was like, "Oh, all right, how many am I going?" They're like, "You just got two," and I'm like, "All right, hopefully I can get in and get out of Dodge like before anything crazy happens." Um, I think,
Such a jackass, dude.
yeah,
I
yeah,
fucking
yeah,
love you.
like let me get out of this in 6 batters, hopefully. No, I I really don't know. I think I just kind of like it was early in the year. I probably was just excited to be there. Um, I don't even I don't even really remember the outing, to be honest. I just remember it being cold as hell, and apparently I was throwing hard, and I think I was done after 2 innings. I might have even let up a run. Like, I don't even know how I pitched. Um, but I think just another year down, like my mentality, like I just kind of grew a little bit. I think I was just more. I don't know if like once you become a senior, you feel like you're a leader and stuff. But I wasn't even around my own
Well, I
teammates.
don't know if this is true, but this is just from listening to the story. This is the first time that you said I was having fun. I was happy to be there and
Hmm.
pitching at the same time. I don't know if that was the first, but that's a shift I'm hearing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just kind of was probably having fun, and I wanted to go. Like, I was like because I remember I used to do a trip to Port St. Lucie and we would do spring trainings there as well. And I didn't do it that year to go to Tampa, and because I was just like adamant, like I want to play near Yankee Stadium. Like I think it just added like another element of just another occasion I needed to kind of rise up to. And I also
That's
felt
dope.
the
I didn't know
IM
that story.
I
I
also
didn't
felt
know that.
like the IMG team was just way better than me too. I think that was the other thing. I just needed to figure out how to compete with them.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because like regardless, draft or going to play Division 1 baseball, like you're going to see some high level hitters, and it's like, all right, let's see what the fuck I got, type of shit, I guess, and that confidence coming into you too led to a pretty good year for you too, senior year.
Yeah, and they didn't really come back until so I threw a no hitter against John Glenn, and then like the local scouts like Larry Izzo was there. He was kind of following me around my junior year, or he would come to games. Um, he saw that no hitter, and then the next outing I threw another no hitter, and there was more teams at that one. And then the outing after that, it was like, oh, some different teams are coming now. It's like here comes the Phillies, here comes the Rays, here comes whatever team. Like it was just here and there. It's not like some of the stuff I'm seeing at Hop Hog today. We have the guy Michael Oliveto. He's got guys coming to practice, so it's definitely different for me than it is for him.
Yeah, and from a outsider's perspective, I'm you know at practice talking to Buckstein. This is my freshman year in college, and we're like, "Holy shit! Did you just see fucking 2 weeks in a row Fanti threw a no hitter?" And I'm like, again, in the back of my head, I'm thinking about the last time that I saw you pitch was against us in the scrimmage, and I'm like, "Holy shit, dude! He's really fucking figured it out." Like he's really starting to come into his own, and it was so exciting to follow on like the media because obviously I couldn't make it over and watch you play because we're playing at the same time. Just more games. It's a little bit more of an involved schedule than a high school schedule, but just following you along. And I think you had a couple homers though that year too, right? Where you kind of mashed.
I hit well, but I didn't hit any homers.
No, you didn't any homers. Okay,
No,
okay. I thought
it's
I knew
funny.
you raked.
Yeah, I hit well. So I remember leading off the year, my first at bat, hit it off the wall, and I was like, all right, sweet. Second at
This is
bat,
the year.
second at bat, another one, like right off the wall, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna hit like six this year. I can't wait. Like, didn't hit one. It was just
That's that's so
yeah,
true and so
yeah,
relatable as a hitter. Like you have a first
Yeah,
first day out there, like you miss hit a ball to the track, and you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna get so many,"
this is the year,
and then
bro.
you proceed
yeah,
to like not sniff a barrel for 20 at bats.
yeah.
Yeah, just single everybody to death and just be like, all right, I guess that's just another year.
I remember like the farthest ball I hit that year was at Duck Stadium. I like flew out to the warning track in center field. Like I hit the ball 400 feet. It was probably gone at our place, like in Hop Hog. But of course, I decided to hit it at Duck Stadium. But
Which you ended up
that,
pitching at, by the way.
which I ended up pitching at last year. Yeah, yep. Through probably five pitches would have blown UCL.
We'll get there.
Yeah,
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 yeah, we will get there.
Just
yeah,
some foreshadowing.
hmm
Little teaser right there.
yeah.
But how does this feel though for you? You're kind of fucking on top of the high school baseball world right now, pitching your balls off, raking, having fun. I'm sure Bull's going crazy too. He's having a good old time. So, like,
Yeah.
what's that like for you?
Yeah, it was super cool. I that year, like just hitting, everything was clicking for me. Pitching, like it was easy for the most part. Um, and then we got knocked out of playoffs in the first game. We had a really good game against East Islip. I lost it 1-0 in 8 innings. So that was the end of high school right there. And then like draft stuff starts to be talked about a little bit more seriously. And the Phillies invited me to a pre-draft workout probably a week or two after the season. And at the time, the draft was like June 9th, 10th, 11th, I think it was, not 8, 9, 9, 10, 11, I think. And so it's probably like 2 weeks before the draft. And I remember driving down to Philadelphia, and my dad he goes, "Hey, like maybe you should tell him you can hit too. Like maybe you can hit in pro ball." And I was like, "Dad, look, like I don't know if this is I don't know if that's a good plan. I don't know if
I
I'm good
can
enough.
hear this in
Like
my.
I don't know if I'm good enough to pitch at this level. Like nonetheless
I don't
hit
know if
like
I've met your dad, but that is something my dad would that type of a suggestion.
yeah."
Just-
And he's like, "What's the worst that can happen? Just mention it." And I was like, I was starting to like get the courage, like maybe he's right. Like let's see if I could take BP there. Like what's the worst that can happen? And I remember the first guy who gets up, he ended up getting the first two guys I got up were drafted by the Phillies, so I knew them in pro ball. Was first guy Kyle Martin. He's 23 years old, not the Long Island Kyle Martin. He went to USC. Um, First ball hits it into the second deck, and I was like, I can't do that. Second ball hits it to the second deck. Third ball hits it this high off the floor, and it gets out. Like it was just the craziest laser show. And then the next guy was Greg Pickett, who got drafted in the 8th round. And he just had, and I was like, okay, here's a high school guy. Let's see if I should have said something. He starts hitting balls into the second deck, and I'm like, all right, I'll be back here throwing
I'll be ready to
88.
pitch. I'll be ready to
I'll be
pitch.
back there throwing 88 to 90. Like,
That's great.
yeah. Just let me know when you
These
need
guys
me.
are late. It's like, listen, I got a braids for you.
Like, I could flip one in for you. Like,
That's
no,
fucking great, dude.
yeah. So I did that pre-draft, um, and then I kind of knew like if I got drafted, it would probably be the Phillies because they showed the most interest the whole time. Um, they had Tom coming down to the games, Alex Agostino was coming down to the games, and just like kept the most contact with me afterwards as well. And the draft comes, and I remember being in school and like I'm watching it, and just being like younger, I didn't really know how it worked, but like they were telling me they were gonna take me like a few different times. And I don't even remember like the exacts of it, but I remember like kid who ended up being my best friend in pro ball, Will Stewart, got drafted in the 20th round. And like in my brain, I'm like, oh, lefty out of high school, like that's all I got. Like that's the quota. You can't draft any more lefties out of high school. Like
Listen, St. Joe's can only take one, so can the Phillies.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
You got me.
See? See, Dwayne? It- So
If the 20th round goes by, and every pick you're like, is it me? Is it me? Is it me? You don't know if the phone's gonna ring and all that. It's very exciting and stressful.
yeah, but like I know I'm gonna get something. Like I'm gonna get called in a way because I remember like after school my friends came over my house and were just hanging out like on my couch. And um and then Sal called I think my dad and he goes like, "Hey, you near the draft tracker?" And he's like, we're like, "Yeah, like we had it going the whole day." And he's like, "All right, listen up." And it was the 31st round they picked me and it was like it was crazy. To this day, it's probably the most my phone blew up in one shot. And then that night, I won the Yastrzemski Award. Um, it was all the same day.
That's
What a fucking
overwhelming.
day. What a
Yeah,
fucking day,
yeah,
dude.
right. I
Yeah.
went from like taking a test in English 101 to winning the Yaz and getting drafted in the same day. It was I covered everything.
Now, for I would say 99% of us that don't win a Yaz, what was that like for you? Because that's, you want to talk about that award a little bit, what that means and what that meant to you to win that.
It was super cool, and it was definitely like a goal of mine that I had from probably freshman year. I remember like that was like my out there goal though. Like it was like I remember writing it down like when I was like 14. It was like make varsity was like the first concern, and then it was like play, and then all league, all county, and then I didn't know about like league MVP stuff and all that, so I was like win the Yastrzemski, but like that was like at the bottom. Um,
So you're writing down goals at this point as a freshman?
yeah, I mean like I remember writing those specifically down. I wouldn't say I did it for everything though. Like I'm not gonna sit here and say like I always have goals. I have this list in my back pocket. Like I remember that specifically I had written down. And but that just was like the far reaching one. And that could have probably played into why I thought I was going backwards when I went from being all league, all county sophomore year to all league junior year. Um, maybe I felt like I was just regressing and wasn't there was no way I was going to make the jump from being just all league to being the county MVP essentially. Like, um, so and also like the guys who won it before me, like I knew some of them, like Matt Crohan, like I always kind of looked up to him. He won it 2 years before me. Um, he kind of like we both played for the PAL Rangers, so like he kind of took me under his wing a little bit, just both being like lefty lefties. I played against him his senior year, so like I saw like firsthand a little bit what he was doing.
Dude was
And,
gross.
yeah, he was unreal. Had like a four pitch mix, like slider and curveball was like 2 to 4. Like he was good, and kind of looked up to him a little bit at that time. So I was like, I want to win that too. Uh, and then junior year was Jesse Berardi, who we played travel ball with all the time. So I got to see him play firsthand, and then it just became my goal. Like I just saw that as like uh something that I really wanted, and going into the year, like I was kind of like you know probably in the top 5 to get it. So I was
I,
like,
th-
okay, let's do it.
I think what's interesting about your journey thus far is, and I think this is so important because Kyle, you described this so well in regards to Nick, where it was compete first and then really hone your tools and become like a fucking dude at 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 a at the right time for Nick. And it's the same thing in regards to these goals, where if you think about your goals that you put down, it starts. I guess what I'm trying to say is like it's realistic, and then the essence and at the center of what it is that you're trying to do is just compete. But it wasn't like you're thinking about the draft since the time you're in ninth grade. I'm sure like every other kid that's ever played this game, it's like, I want to be in the big leagues and I want to fucking, pitch in the World Series, play in the World Series, play center field in the world, whatever. Like every other kid, you probably thought like that, think like that. Like that's just how it is.
Yeah,
But when you go into the moments that you've laid out for us thus far, it's I want to compete and win this game. I want to make varsity. I want to play every day. And then you're kind of looking around at the guys that like Crohan that took you under his wing. You played side by side with Jesse Berardi. You're seeing those high level type dudes. And as you're starting to climb the ranks, so to speak, and you're starting to like hone your craft essentially, it's like, okay, this is real. Like you talked about at the end of that junior year, and then you're starting to get into the winter, then the draft pops up and it's like, fuck, this is possible. Like I think it's so important to lay out for players that might listen to this, parents that listen to this, like your mind was in the right place at the right time. Your focus was in the right place at the right time. And again, I'm not sitting here saying you were like some mature like because listen, I know you, dude. I love you to death. You're a jackass. Like you've always been silly. You've always been fun to be around. You've always
For
been a
the
freaking
people
great.
listening at home, on these live calls, when you type in, you put in your name, and like I wrote Kyle. Dwayne's is called Dwayne. Fanti is bucket hat, glasses, hop hog baseball T-shirt. and he
Italy.
wrote it wrote. Oh, I'm sorry. I just saw blue. I can't actually read it from here.
It
I
took
think
me
I
a while to
started off
read
with a
that.
hot dog hat though.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay, okay.
yes.
Before we
All right.
started,
I
yeah.
feel better. And in your name currently says least handsome too, because when you first joined from your phone, it was least handsome, and then now you're on the computer, so we had to add that.
Yeah, yeah, we had to,
Yeah.
I had to edit it.
Yeah. But yeah, again though, like my point is that you were realistic with yourself, and the centerpiece of you has never changed. Like I'm sure, we're going to talk about your pro experience, what that's been like, the ups and downs and everything in between, but you've always been a guy that has competed and been just yourself. And then as things started to line up for you, it was like, okay, like, all right, this is the next challenge. This is the next challenge. This is what I need to do. This is the next challenge. Like I loved how you described going into your junior year versus your senior year and how you recognized the preparation needed to change and you made a change with it. And again, like I'm not being unrealistic. I understand the fact that, from the time that you played high school baseball, you started throwing, 90 miles an hour from the left side, you throwing no hitters and doing all these things. Like obviously it's kind of in my brain at that time, it's like no brainer. This guy should be drafted. Like I understand that your skill was there, but the way that you went about this, it's so nice to hear this laid out like this. Being somebody who's been your friend for so long and has gotten this story in so many different ways, it's so nice to hear in the way that you've described it thus far. And again, like my feeling as your friend was I was just so proud of you, dude. Like it was so cool to see. And then and yeah, I don't know. Like I just it's cool. It's cool to hear. And I think it's important for people that have similar aspirations to you, whether it's, playing at the highest level possible, that the way that you went about it, the experiences that you've had up until this point, that it's just important to understand the competitiveness and just the type of person that you are has just been so consistent through this time. You didn't really, from my perspective, you didn't really change who you were to fit some sort of mold. It was just, timing and making adjustments to routines and recognizing really where you were at. Like I think it was funny talking about the pre-draft workout and realizing maybe it's not a two-way thing. That
Yeah,
was fucking hilarious.
yeah. It's I think that's definitely the hardest thing, and I think everyone, like I'm still adjusting to this, is like knowing who you are. And obviously in this context it's for baseball, but it's also just in general. Um, and what you're capable of, but also like, you know, challenging yourself. I like to, the whole way up, I like to put myself in, other than pitching at the beginning, but like for the most part, I like to play with teams where like I didn't know anybody. Like I like to kind of, show up and guest play. Like I have a toy chest. I don't even know if I still have it, but like it was full of jerseys, like of me playing travel ball for a bunch of different teams. Uh, and just seeing where you stack up against different people, and then just, kind of relentlessly working in the background. I was, I would say I kind of got like my work ethic finally instilled in me, and I don't know what the trigger was, but like it was somewhere around like junior senior year where it was like, okay, like this is what I want to do. I enjoy like being in the weight room. I enjoy working out. But even if I get success, like I can't not be the same guy. Um, which is something I was always aware of. Um, like no matter what point of baseball I am, if I'm at the highest of high or lowest of low, like I want to try to give you like the same Nick Fanti each time. It's not like, just because things are going well, I'm just gonna walk past you all of a sudden, or not make the same jokes, or be a clown, or whatever. Uh, you know, position I hold eventually. Like I still want to be the same guy. It's, I don't know.
Yeah, and listen, knowing your parents too, they did a great job with you. because I know that they definitely had a large part to do with the way that you are and the way that you were growing up, and obviously getting to experience all of that. It was nice.
Yeah, I got all the looks from my mom. Or actually, no, just the handsome parts from my mom. The least is because of my dad.
Kyle, I think this is a good part to piss. I
All
gotta
right,
refill my water, and then we'll
we'll
keep it
keep
rolling.
going. Yeah, sweet. Well, I guess we're
Do we have to get
ready to
serious now?
restart.
We don't have to get serious,
No, no,
but
listen, it's gonna transition. If we're laughing, that's all good. Uh,
yeah.
but
But
Oh,
I would
what
like to
was the
continue to
draft
hear the
party
story.
like? What was the draft party like, though? Like, was this like was
the
Big Nick chefing it up?
the amount of baby oil. Oh, no.
We keep trying to restart and like kind of like reel it back in, and then one of us will just suck it.
Keep that.
Yeah.
Keep that.
Yeah.
I want to hear about the baby oil.
Yeah.
Johnson and
That'll be
Johnson.
a that'll be an
Oh,
exclusive. That's what people got to pay for.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna start. Like I
Well,
said, we're gonna
Dwayne,
start a
That's
Patreon.
on our premium.
we can't show the podcast now because Dwayne just took his sunglasses off on
Fuck.
live recording, so that's not gonna make
Shit.
it
Run it back.
in. Okay, so you're drafted. You win the Yaz, and tell us about that. Keep going.
Was Big Nick cooking at your draft party? That's what I need to know.
Well, so technically, like I got drafted, but then we had the Yastrzemski Awards that night. So like that was like the nightcap, and
So you're
um,
eating Villa Lombardi's that night, right?
yeah,
Or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. Wherever that catering hall, I think that is Villa Lombardi's, and so we had that night, and it was just overall at that point probably the best day of my life to that point. Just all like the whirlwind of getting drafted, and then like another one of my goals, like win the Yastrzemski Award. To get that was just like its own separate excitement.
And then you have to
Um,
go accept that award, and did you have to speak in front of a whole bunch of people?
and I gave
Yes.
the absolute worst speech of my entire life.
Give us a
Like
little bit of that speech right now. What was it
I
like?
I couldn't even begin to tell you. I remember, so I am in general just terrified of speaking in front of people. Um, it's something I've gotten better at over the years, for sure. But I am just because you start to realize, like, okay, as long as you're yourself, like what you need to say just eventually comes out in the wash. Um, I just tried to like, at first I had like a little script, like, I'd like to thank so and so and so and so and so and so. And then, like, for whatever reason, I put it down and I was like, trying to like thank my team, thank my parents. And then, like, I'm looking in the crowd, I'm seeing, like, for whatever reason in my head, I'm like, I just remember looking at like Rich Chufo. For whatever reason, him and his family are like etched in my mind of that because of how like awkward I felt and terrified. And I remember just staring at him and his family because they were sitting there at like the Pat Med table, and I couldn't even tell you what I said, but it was not good. It was awkward. It was probably five of the most awkward minutes of not just my life, but everyone in that room as well. So it
That's a
was
long time.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if I lasted 5 minutes even. Pause. Um, so
I was gonna say it.
yeah,
Love it.
yeah.
I think it's understood universally that a high school kid making a speech like that is pretty. First of all, it's not common. You're not. I don't think a lot of high school kids are making speeches in general. So I think it's understood that it's going to be a little bit awkward, but you're the fucking best baseball player in that room at that time, so fuck it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I remember like good Josh Gudis, he said to me, he's like, "Hey, there's a high chance you win this. Might want to have something prepared, say something." And then I remember he wrote something out for me, and I'm pretty sure I printed it out and had it with me, and just like completely abandoned it because I was like, I'm just gonna be like genuine in myself, and it just genuine myself was like, I want to go crawl into a ball in the corner right now, and like I just want to take this and go. Like, thanks, but like,
Well, I
I'm
think
sorry.
that was a good goal to have, and that's a
Yeah,
good thing to, as we all get better at public speaking, you can be yourself more naturally with practice and repetition and the whole thing. But when you're not experienced, it doesn't. You're not ready for it. But
totally.
yeah, that would be
Totally.
terrifying. Absolutely terrifying to get in front of. I've got in front of people that size of a group and spoke at length once, and like not players and like hey telling them what to do, but actually like speaking like that. And it was probably 6 months ago, and I practiced for weeks. It went well, but I was 12 years older than you were, and I practiced for weeks. So I feel for you there.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you don't really know how that feels until like you actually step up there for the first time, and then every time after it becomes easier because you're just like, okay, I know how it feels. I know like the cadence of it. Like, I can take a breath here. I'm not just like reading with my head down. Like, I think I was just all over the map on that, and at my core, I am a quieter person. I know I'm a jackass, but like I'm quieter and standoffish. Um, Once I get comfortable, then I start to open up. But it was definitely like my obviously I accomplished this goal, but like going up there was like at the time my personal hell. Like it
That
was
just adds to the
like
roller coaster because you're having the best day of your life. You win this award, you get drafted. Oh my god, and now you have to go do this.
yeah. Yeah, it's actually funny you bring that up because it's like one of those things I wiped from my brain because of the awkwardness of it. So,
I think I have to be honest. After most speeches like that I've had to give, I'm pretty sure I black out during and I just forget immediately what I said after. So yeah, I can feel for you there.
yeah, and the worst is when like your like stuff stops like running in your brain. You're like, uh, I got nothing. And like those like deep breaths, even if it's like for a second, feels like 30 minutes. Like, oh, I haven't said
Yeah,
anything. It probably realistically is like 2, 3 seconds, which is fine. But in your brain, you're like, I haven't said a word in an hour, and I'm still standing here.
Yeah, but then you
this is
start to
getting
roll.
worse. This is
What
getting
happens? Yeah,
worse.
what happens if I don't talk? Oh my god! And then you're like, now you're the internal clock speeds up. The game speeds up on you.
100%. But like, put me on a pitcher's mound in front of 30,000 people any day before like I have to speak to a room of 300 high school kids, like, and their parents, who are all happy for me for the most part. Like,
Yeah, they're all there. They don't really give a shit about what you're saying, but in your brain you're like, "Fuck,
yeah,
damn." What are the following days like for you after that? You is it like a settle in and kind of holy shit? Like were there moments where you were able to take that stuff in, or was it all right? Let's fucking get to work now.
yeah. I had some time. I mean, so I guess I technically got drafted on what like June 9th or June 10th, June 11th. I still didn't graduate high school till June 25th. So like I was still going to school after I got drafted. So that was pretty cool because like they did some things at the high school. Like they announced it like over the loudspeaker the next day. We had like a senior meeting in like the auditorium, and I was notoriously late for school. I like my sleep. Um, and I remember they had like a huge senior meeting to talk about graduation, and they got up there to be like, and let's give it up for Nick, but I wasn't there yet. And the whole senior class was just like,
You just big league your whole school.
yeah, yeah, they're like he's not here. And meanwhile, I was just sleeping. I showed up like 20 minutes late. They're like, and he's here. Like no one told me.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. That fits. That's on brand right there.
Yep. Um, but overall, it was really cool. To just like go back to high school after that whole day. And then I officially got like offered a contract like the day of my graduation, which was I think June 25th. And then I didn't sign it until July 6th. Not for like negotiating purposes. It was just I wanted to go to graduation and do after prom and all that stuff. And Um, and once I got all that out of the way, then I went and signed.
Nice. How was like I don't know what was it like around your family? Was how was Big Nick feeling? How was your mom feeling? Were they excited for you? I mean, that's kind of a dumb question, but
Yeah,
what
they
was that like?
they were obviously over the moon, but it was there was like a hot second where, like it was another decision to make. It was um do you want to go to college? Do you want to go to pro ball? And I remember all of a sudden Marist found more money in the scholarship to give me to go there to play baseball, and I would have went there for nothing. And then there was baseball as well, uh, with the Phillies. And there was a hot second there where, we were all excited and everything, and I was like, I think I want to go to school. And my dad like was like, hey, look, like I'm not going to tell you what to do, but go play. Like that's what you want to do. Do you see yourself being a college student right now? And I'm like, nope. And he's like, go play baseball. School will be there. Like please re rethink this. It was like literally like one conversation I had where I kind of threw it out there like a few days after the draft, and I was like, it all calmed down. I'm like, one of those days that you're having, you're just like, I think I want to go to college. I'm not going to take the offer, whatever it is. Like, and I don't know what made me think it that day, but the rest of the time it was just all pro ball.
Well, that's
And
a giant decision to make, and it would be um, it's natural for you to like, okay, what's the other option, and kind of run through that and bounce it off some people. So that makes sense.
yeah, it was definitely something that we had to like talk extensively about, but like once it boiled down to it, it was just like, okay, like this is what I want to do, and like I'm gonna get paid to do this, every day. Um, it's just like, you know, once you sign, that was like another thing, like, oh, like I signed and now I'm leaving tomorrow. What do you mean? Like I'm not gonna have my graduation parties and go hang out like at my other friends' graduation parties, see them off to school. Like this is essentially me leaving for college now. Um, but it's baseball instead. Like it all happened like in a whirlwind. Like we did like a little party at my house, like the day of, um, for a few hours. Everyone came. I feel like Dwayne. I think there's a picture of us in the backyard.
Yeah, yeah. It was
Um,
like you, me, Derek, I think,
and
Jeff,
Jeff, yeah. And then like my travel team came.
Mark.
Like I didn't even know like the amount of people that were coming, and they were just in and out all day. And then at like 6 o'clock, whatever it was, we just got in the car and left and went down to Philly. And the next day, I signed my contract and then flew down to Clearwater.
Talk about a whirlwind, man. That shit happened quick.
Yeah, especially when you thought you were gonna have this summer with your boys out of high school, like at the time, like that's the most important thing to you. Like your group of best friends, and we're gonna have this great summer and all that stuff. Like it's our last. You say it's like your last hurrah, but like you're really not going anywhere. You're just going to college, and you're gonna be right back with the same guys in 3 months for break. Um, but it was like the first, like I was the first to leave all of a sudden, and it was like oh wow, like this got real quick.
Yeah, and even in regards to a college baseball experience, it's you're you're going and you're going to work, like it's like you graduated, you got your couple parties maybe here or there, you got your little send off, and then it's like, all right, it's fucking, it's go time. It's not show up at campus, fall ball experience, go and watch college football, whatever. It's fucking it's go time,
Yeah,
you
to
know.
University of Baseball.
So Nick, talk about that transition to your finishing high school. You're literally graduating high school, and then you have this contract to sign. you tie up some ends with family and friends and all that, and then now you're showing up to rookie ball, and most of your teammates are from other countries, and you've got potentially older players, and the quality of the competition is just uncomparable to high school, and that's a huge transition. You're a professional athlete at this point. You're living away from home for the first time, I imagine, and
Yep.
like walk us through that.
Yeah, all that like compounded at once. It's funny because like it was definitely very intimidating when I got there. And you not that you ever want to like look around, pick out the bad players, but it's just like everyone's freaking really good. Like, um, I don't know how I'll ever stick out here, but it doesn't really become about like your skill. It's just like how consistent can you be. Um, I was I got there. I remember walking to my motel room, and who's my best friend this day was sitting there on a you could see the bathroom from the front door because it was like one of those like where the sink was like out of the bathroom. He was sitting on the sink FaceTiming someone, and he's like, "Hey, what's up, man?" And like Southern dude, and just adjusting to like the way he talked was funny. Like, and obviously like he thought the way I talked was funny. Um, then you got like guys from Dominican, Venezuela, the way they go about things. Um, even down to like the first time you gotta take a shower, it's like, oh, I gotta shower around all these guys. Like, I never did that in high school. I just like played the game and drove home. Like, I can't do that here. Like, and it's like, no, like we're in Florida. You gotta clean yourself up and then and then leave. So like even just like the little minute stuff like that, just like it's just an adjustment. Um, I remember going out the stretch for the first time. It was like a early work type thing. I remember having my phone in my back pocket, and that was just like a big no-no. I remember walking past one of the coaches in pro ball. It's like you don't call anyone coach; it's just their name. Um, and he goes, "Hey, what do you got there?" I'm like, "It's my phone." And he goes, "Why do you have your phone?" I'm like, "So I can check the time, like just so I know while I'm out there, when the stretch start, when do I have to be here, when do I have to be there." He goes, "No phone, like you should know where you got to go when." And I'm like, "What? Okay, sorry, coach." And he goes, "Don't call me coach." And I'm like, like I was like, I don't know what to do here. Like everything's wrong. Um, so it's just like making like all these like little mistakes before you even play a game. And then, so I'm getting overwhelmed by like the first few days, really the first day even. Um, they pull me into the office and they're like, "Hey, you're gonna be in the GCL. Um, Manager is Rolly DeArmas. Here's the pitching coach, Brian Sweeney." And Sweeney ended up being my pitching coach for Team Italy in Low A as well when I had a good year. He was like, "Hey man, like how you adjusted?" And I'm like, it's an adjustment. It's a lot. These guys are freaking good. And he's like, one thing I say to everyone, and like we started to hit it off because he's from Yonkers and I'm from Long Island, Hop Hog, obviously. Um, he was like, how'd you get guys out in high school? And I was like, I don't know. I threw a fastball, like I would just, get it by them and da da da. He's like, so you threw strikes? Yeah. And he's like, don't change anything then. And I was like, what? He's like, just do what you did in high school. You'll be fine. Like, throw strikes. And I was like, all right, we'll see what happens. And I remember my first live AB. It was like my first time there seeing me like in any type of action, and I'm facing a guy, Dylan Cousins, who big dude, played in the big leagues a little bit, had like 40 homers in Reading like the following year, and I'm facing him. He's the size of the batter's box, and I'm like, this isn't high school baseball anymore. That was like the first time I realized like these guys are legit men. Um, and then like I was fine against him. Like he didn't do anything crazy. Um, and the mentality just kind of was like, okay, I'm just gonna throw strikes, I guess. And then slowly, I just started to learn like, you know, what got you there is, really important too. Like you don't have to get there and change. Um, and he kind of helped me with that process as well. That first pitching coach, and that's kind of like helped me feel comfortable on the field. And then it helped that while I was adjusting to life off the field, like you're living in a hotel room, you have a roommate, uh, you got guys from different cultures with different opinions, stuff like that. While I was adjusting with that, I was having success in my first summer, so that made it kind of easier to manage what was going on off the field as well.
I think it's important to highlight what you said about remembering what got you there, because I would imagine, because again, I don't have the same personal experience you do with professional baseball, or any professional baseball for that matter. It might be easy to think, whether you're going into pro ball, going into college ball, a kid that just got to that is in the starting lineup for their varsity team, to think that they need to do something different, because I do think it's important to you know just like you said, I think you said it best, like, use what got you there to be successful at that next level too. Obviously there's adjustments to be made, and I'm sure you're going to talk about some of those adjustments you had to make, but ultimately you're there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's so many things that you feel like you need to be able to do to get to the ultimate goal of pitching in the big leagues. And it's easy when you look around and you've got, someone probably has a better curveball than you. Someone probably, there's a lot of guys probably throw harder. There's guys that are bigger. There's guys that are older. There's guys that have pitched at a big school. And, um, it's easy to compare. Um, I think it's so important as coaches, but then, in this case, as an athlete, that you're very aware as to what you're good at. So then you can double down on that and make sure that that stays. And then I think you started to allude to it. Then you can start to add some other things or find some other things, but keeping that core of who you are and what you're good at. And sometimes, I'm not sure if this is the case for you, but just in the young players I've experienced, sometimes like you don't know just yet. Um, like you show up and you're like, hey, I was good in high school, and you show up and you're like, oh, I'm playing against men. Like you might not realize that your fastball is good enough, or even the strength of yours or your ability to throw strikes is the reason that they think you're going to perform well when you show up. So I think it's a really good message that your coach gave. Was he identified? He did some homework and identified, okay, this is something special about Nick, that he can essentially pitch and command the zone. So like let's stick with that.
Yeah, yeah. Because at the end of the day, it was like obviously like my changeup wasn't ready, my curveball wasn't like where it was. Like it was just, hey, how did you find success before? Don't get away from that because you're only going to hurt yourself by not doing that. And I think that was something that he continued to remind me too. Like even if I was having a rough outing, he'd walk out to the mound, and I swear to you, up until so I had him in 2015, 2016 Instructs, and then 2017 with Team Italy and Lakewood. Every single mound visit he made to me, at some point he would say, "How'd you get guys out in high school?" Like he said it every, like, even if he started off with some other stuff. There was times where he told me other other things too, um, but he would always come back to, "How'd you get guys out in high school?" And I kind of you know, and maybe it helped me identify as well, like, oh, maybe that is a strength of mine. Maybe I can throw strikes and command the baseball, and you kind of fake it till you make it type deal. Like you kind of, tell yourself you're that guy, and then all of a sudden you become it.
Well, it sounds like that's sort of been your experience as a baseball player, and in particular as a pitcher to this point, where you're sort of like, I think I can do this, or maybe I'm in a position where I kind of need to, and then you see a little bit of success, Like, oh, okay, like maybe that's part of it, and then later on you uncover something else. Like, okay, maybe I can do this, and you're sort of learning, and you're getting some reassurance about like who it is and what you're good at through some reps and some um, yeah, just some experience.
Hmm.
So I think to like to keep on that train for you to just uh, go through these experiences, compete well, but then like take some wins from it as you're going.
Yeah, and that's where like the development part of it became more important as well. And probably the aspect that I eventually needed, of course, like um, I had the gamesmanship and all that. It was just like, okay, now we got to develop this guy as a full-time pitcher. And I feel like like, I really don't have a bad thing to say about my time with the Phillies. And I feel like they handled me pretty well in that aspect. Obviously, at the end of the day, like the injuries ended up like, you know, playing a factor and leading to me, kind of making it to the end of my contract without really playing as much as I would have liked to.
What were some things that you can say to the development process you think helped you get to like that best point in your career? Like, because again, like we're talking to somebody where now you have a conversation with you, just coming off the street, you wouldn't know the type of success and the levels that you've pitched at. Pitching for Team Italy, which is a fucking incredible feat. Like, what are some things along that developmental process led you to have the successes that you had? Because like you talked about changeup not being there, breaking ball not being there. Obviously, you had the ability to command the zone and compete, and you were able to be competitive with your fastball. But like, what are some things that you were, I guess, made aware of and learned how to do to be competitive at the levels and the places that you did pitch at?
I think ultimately, like with the Phillies, they and whether it was the right approach or the wrong approach isn't the question. Like they had a pretty uh like they had a guideline to how to go about pitching that I kind of dove into and really like tried to emulate. Like they were very from the mechanics they wanted you to have to how we pitch to people, and then just kind of like playing to your strengths. A lot of it aligned with what I already did well. Um, and once I kind of started to dial in those mechanics and be consistent with that, then like my release point got more consistent and I was able to kind of throw curveballs and changeups for strikes. But it was also just like the approach to pitching. Like they kind of believed like, hey, first pitch, and this is kind of like evolved. Like the game isn't really like this anymore, but it was like first pitch, fastball, down and away, and it's like get strike one, and it was like all right, that was like my life's goal was like throw a fastball down and away for strike one, and then it was like depending on what the batter did, that'll tell you what you do after that. So if he took it, do it again, and then it was like okay, do it again, 0-2. All right, now you have options. Do you go in? Do you stay out? Do you go more out? Like, can you throw one on the zone? Like, there was, it just like made so much sense to me. Like, once I adopted like their approach and it played pretty well with the stuff I had. Granted, some people like, it was like, square peg in a round hole. Like, it just wasn't how they were meant to pitch. But for me, I got lucky where like their approach lined up really well with how I pitched, and I was able to kind of like grow into that. And I still have, when I pitched last year, at least with the Ducks, like I still have aspects of how they approached pitching from like an attack the hitter uh, point of view. Um, and I mean, like specific to me, it was mostly like getting confidence in my off speed. It wasn't that it wasn't there. It was just like I couldn't throw it for strikes at first. Or if I did throw it for a ball, I wouldn't throw it again because I was just like, oh, it's broken. Um, but then they kind of approached me and they were like, hey, like, you actually throw it for a strike so much that like it would rank like whatever, like fifth in the big leagues this year. And that was in like 2015 or like early or 16, I think it was. And I was like, oh, so that gave me confidence. Like, oh, if I miss, like, I'm just gonna do it again. Um, it's just some of the backside stuff, like the analytics side of it, where they were able to just kind of like give me confidence to move forward with. Because I really like the chess game of like what I was doing with the ball and specifically like uh, pitching with my fastball because that's kind of what I did again throughout high school, and I kind of it still played in the early levels of pro ball was pitching with my fastball. It was just like once I was able to add this, like that just made it tougher for hitters to deal with. And then I got a changeup in 2017. I should say like 50% of the time I had a changeup in 2017, but that just made me way harder to deal with the more I was able to hone those in.
Yeah, and it's also kind of similar to the way you described your travel and high school baseball experience too, where in the moment it's kind of like, oh shit, that doesn't work. But if you look at the analytics and overall, you really, you were headed in the right direction with your stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it I'm definitely thankful. Like I found early success when I got there because it was definitely it was overwhelming just overall. And they used me as a reliever my first year. And I remember they gave me a spot start in the towards the end of the summer. And the Phillies, like when I say they had a pitching approach, like they literally had a handbook, like a whole booklet. And I would take it with me everywhere. And I took it pretty seriously, but like I remember pitching against the Yankees and it was a big deal. My dad flew down. Um, I'm pitching against the GCL team I grew up rooting for. And they had their day with me. Like I went like 2 innings, 5 runs, like hits all over the place, walking people. Just first start in pro ball didn't go well. After pitching really well out of relief the whole year. And like my dad came, I was like, fuck it. I let him down. Like I remember walking out and like I was in that mood, like just like sulking. And like this is another time when I stopped like taking it so super duper seriously. And I don't know if I could say this. I know this is a touchy word, but like he goes, and I have the book in my hand. He's like, "What's that? Suicide prevention?" And I was like, "All right." Like, I started laughing. I'm like, you know what? You're right. Like, I'm taking this a little too hard. I'm looking too deep into it.
I need to ditch the booklet.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm sure that your dad in situations where because that's just always how he has been for the majority of people that might not know your dad. He is somebody that'll add levity to situations. I mean, fuck, the guy used to get me thrown out at the plate on purpose just because he thought it was fucking funny sometimes. So
Yep.
bloop single, fucking outfield playing up. Go, 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 go. Oh, you're dead. As you're passing him, he'd be like, oh, you're dead.
Yeah, you'd be running by him. He'd go, you got no shot. It's like, what coach says that? But it was just like for his own entertainment. He'd be like,
yeah,
oh, you're done.
Yep. And you'd either be out by 10 feet or you'd be safe by like 30 feet. And you'd be like, bro, what the fuck did you say? Oh, you're dead.
Yep.
I can hear that to this day.
That's hilarious. I like that you bring up kind of what you were feeling because what you're describing is not unique to you. I would venture to say that basically every pitcher, pro baseball player has a similar thing. It's a giant transition no matter where you come from. and then it's really hard. Everyone's really good. You have some bad days, and it's it's your job, and it's you have to pour yourself into it. So for you to be saying like, oh, I screwed this up, I let my dad down. Those are the things that people don't see when they're just being a fan of the game, and you see guys come up on TV, they're playing on TV, and you see them as these professional athletes, as these icons, and you don't see them on field number 4 of some complex in the middle of Clearwater where no one's there, no one's watching. There's less English spoken than Spanish, and uh, you know, your dad's probably sitting there wearing a similar hat, dressed like you are right now, and he's
Yep.
watching. He just flew down, and you're making the start against the GCL version of your childhood team, and you're like, man, I let my dad down, and like, this is. You're probably like, what am I doing with myself? And this whole thing, and that's a very human, it's a very real experience, and that's what like everyone's going through. Um, and you see the finished product on TV, and you're in a big stadium and the lights on and the whole thing, and um, most of it is like what you're describing.
Exactly. Like it's the mental part of the mental grind of it.
Yeah, you got that. I have a young Nick Fanti image painted in my mind, just clutching to his Phillies pitching handbook as he disappointingly walks off the mound. I'm sure you didn't have it in your back pocket on the mound at that moment, but that's just what's in my brain.
That's
You know.
basically like what happened though. Like the game ended and I just like came storming out of the locker room like just all angry and he's just like, cut the shit. Like, let's go get food. Like
Yeah.
there's like a deeper I guess lesson there where it's like, all right, like what happened at the field, you know, go through your emotions there, but like, remember to be a son, your dad just flew down from New York. Go hang out with him. Um, just because you did bad, like doesn't mean you have to let everyone know you did bad. You know, go go enjoy your time with your family and remember like you're also a son and as you get older, like not me. Like you become a dad, you become a husband, you become a boyfriend, whatever it is. Like um so I think like that's the other side of it where I think that by him making that joke, that's what he was getting at.
Yeah, and also coming off of a year where you just had some of the most success you've ever had in your life. So it's a bad start, and at the time I'm sure it felt like the end of the world, but it was arguably one of the more successful and probably fun years you've ever had.
Totally. And like looking back on it, it's like, oh wow, like I had close to 100 innings that year and without even realizing it between high school, pro ball and then instructs afterwards as well. It's like, man, that's the most I've ever thrown in my life.
Yeah.
So Nick, I want to your experience in the GCL rookie ball, and then low A, and then you get up to high A if I have the timing right, and you're pitching well. You have like an attack plan, you're executing it, you have a really good relationship with your pitching coaches, this one in particular, and things are moving in the right direction. And I may have the timing wrong, but at some point you then have some adversity come up.
Yeah, so that was in 2018 actually. So 2017 I had the best year of my career. And then coming off of that in the off season, I started my throwing program and I remember my shoulders started acting up. And then I kind of called some of the trainers and they're like, "Hey, we think you ramped up a little too quick. You the way you're describing your build up like just doesn't make sense. Like why were you throwing so hard so early?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I didn't really know how to build up." And you just kind of go off of like in high school where it was like, I can go and throw a bullpen on Friday and then not throw on the mound again, not throw a baseball till the following Friday for my next lesson, like, and then throw another bullpen. And that to me at the time was building up. Like you, but in pro ball, you gotta like know how to throw every day, whether it's a lot, a little, intensity. And I just didn't really have like a gauge on that, and I don't think I ever really learned that until like very recently. Um, but shoulder starts hurting, and then they tell me to stop throwing, but I was still lifting, and I remember I hit the bottom of a squat, my back started bothering me, and I told them, and they flew me down to Florida in like February, and this was 2018, just to like see what was going on with my back. I just had like a low back strain. I was out the first like 3-4 weeks of the season. No big deal. Let's build you up on the mountain now that your back's feeling better. So I start throwing again. My shoulder's still hurting me. And I probably pitched like a month with my shoulder barking, and they shut me down. And they kept trying to get me back. I just like, my shoulder kept hurting the whole year. Then I got a cortisone shot at the end of the season in the shoulder. They didn't really, like, there wasn't like anything structurally wrong per se. I went and pitched in Australia that off season, and I felt great, but everything was just like down. Like, it was like if my fastball was usually 89, it was like 86. If my curveball broke however much, it was less. If it was my changeup, it was less. Like, everything was just a touch down. And but I felt great, and I think it was just the cortisone doing wonders. I leave Australia, I come home, I don't throw for a few weeks, and then I start throwing again. It comes back. So I kind of throw with it a little bit until spring training. And then I had an outing where it was just like knives in the back of my shoulder. And I remember I went out for the inning. The first ball I threw, going out for the second inning to warm up, it was a fastball. I remember seeing it do that. And I was like, oh, this isn't going to be good. It just had a loop on it. So I was like, hey, we're spinning them this inning. And I remember I went 1, 2, 3, just spinning curveballs every pitch. And I came off, and they were like, hey, man, like, way to work on your off speed there. Like, you had a plan, blah, 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 like all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, my shoulder hurts. So I had what ended up happening was I had like a bone spur in my shoulder that was like kind of rubbing into the wrong stuff. But it's a normal adaptation in in a lot of throwers' shoulders. Mine was just like hitting the wrong stuff. And they had to go in there, they had to open up my shoulder capsule, peel it off, and then close the shoulder capsule. So I was out for that whole 2018 season. Sorry, that was 2019 then. So I was out for 2019, and then 2020 I was going to come back. Obviously, it was the COVID year. I was going to be healthy the whole season. So I come home, and this is when me and KB, right? This is when we coached.
Yeah, so we had, before you went to go pitch in Australia, whatever year that was, that had to have been 2017.
18.
Well, it was the end of 2018.
So then, okay, because I had when I was still playing, I caught you once at Prospect, like a side here and there, like a bullpen here and there. So maybe it wasn't before Australia, but like I had known of you at that point. But yes, during we weren't friends or any of that. I just had caught you and was like, this dude is just throwing the ball where he says he is.
Yeah.
And just like flipping things. I was like, oh, all right, like I see it. And then, but yeah, so 2020, that's my first year with the Astros. Go to spring training, COVID hits, come back home. The whole spring, where everyone's just like, "Are we playing in 2 weeks? Or are we never gonna be outside ever again?"
Never gonna play again.
Right, and yeah, so that's about the timeline. And then we, through a couple chain of events, we get paired coaching with Michael Pesci. Dwayne, we got to have him on here at some point. But,
yep,
we're gonna.
Yeah,
we're gonna.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Let me tell you something about baseball, all right?
Yeah. The new
So
Hyde
he,
Park sailboats.
oh my God, that was the hardest. Nick and I almost crashed. So so Michael Pesci, for just to if you're if we're listening at this point, he is a tenured had scouted with the Astros well before I was with them. No relation there. Then he was with the Blue Jays for a bit, and then he was up to I want to say a cross-checker scout with the Mets, um, and he is now an agent. But he has also been coaching with the travel organization. The three of us have been involved with one way or another.
He's
Um,
Italian, if you couldn't tell by
yes.
my
So
impersonation.
He's
so
Italian.
we Nick and I end up getting put on this. We're coaching this 2020 summer COVID. It's like on paper this stacked 17U team. Like the whole lineup is going. Like five of the six guys or five of the guys in the lineup are going to a Power Five school, and everyone else is going to a mid-major Division I school. It's like, oh my God, this team's gonna never lose a game. The whole thing. And we're playing, and after the COVID, like our guys just weren't prepared. They did not compete well as a group, and they weren't prepared after the lull. And there was a lot of like, let's focus on where I'm committed and where I'm going. And we've got this now agent, but former a guy who had been scouting for 10, 15, 20 years, had signed some big guys, and then you have a new coach in the pro ball, and then you have an active pro pitcher with a ton of success early on in his career coaching these guys, and we're losing or like we're getting hit around, and we're getting outplayed by this town team from the North Shore of Nassau County, which, if you're not from Long Island, is basically like a small high school, really wealthy area. Guys just kind of showing up to the town park, playing against these dudes going to, like, I won't name the schools, but just going to these big time
They wanted
schools.
more.
Yeah.
They
And
fucking
so we're
wanted
losing,
more.
and Pesci's driving us back. We carpooled, and he's driving, and he's like, "How the fuck do we lose to the fucking New Hyde Park sailboats?" And Nick and I laughed so hard then, and then we remembered it like the next week with driving, and we laughed so hard that Nick almost crashed, and I
Yeah.
don't blame him because I couldn't keep my eyes open.
Yeah. It
So
was the hardest I've laughed because it was just like the way he delivered it was just beautiful. Like, and the new Hyde Park fucking sailboats beat us, and like that's not the team we played at all. Yeah.
but
Just a
yeah,
fucking one of a kind dude right there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we so yeah, then Nick and I spent the summer together coaching during COVID. So, but you could continue your story.
Yeah. So we get sent home, and I'm just and I'm now my velocity's starting to tick up a little bit. Like before I left, I was up to 92 in like March, which is harder than I'd thrown in my pro career to that point. Um, and then I just kind of went home, and obviously, like we had that time where didn't know what was going on with the world and all that. And then like once we started to get out a little bit more, I was training throwing the whole summer. I found plyos. I would say I was irresponsibly using them, just kind of ripping them all the time, long tossing 300 feet a lot. Like, uh, as you get older, you start to realize, like, if you have a high intensity day, like, next day, let's go a little bit lower or low. And then, like, let's build back up slow back to that high. Like, I was like high, pretty high, high, higher. Like, that was like my days. And I was feeling really good over the summer. I was kind of throwing like in backfields. We like a bunch of us was like organizing like little things at random high schools, where we would get a bunch of college
Yeah.
arms together, or a bunch of college bats.
Yeah, and then we'd go drive out somewhere, coach like a 17U travel game, and then before we drove back, like you and I would throw as
Yep.
it's getting dark out, and you're you know not warmed up properly, and you just been standing around yelling at 17-year-olds.
Yep.
Just letting it eat.
Yeah, and it's it was definitely irresponsibly throwing in a way. Overall, like intensity, was I preparing myself correctly, all that. Um, and then I got invited to Instructs at the end of 2020, and that was like my that was going to be my first Rule 5 year. And in my head, I was thinking like I may have a chance to get protected here.
Really quick,
Um,
just to the Rule 5 is really complicated. I still barely understand it, but basically, it's a rule where you can't be like the Phillies can't sign you and then keep you in low A forever. This, like, let's say, not in your case, but let's say you're performing really well, and they're just like, you know what, we don't like him, and you're sitting in low A dominating, where some other team could potentially move you up faster. So after I think it's your fifth year,
mhm.
the team has to decide put you on the 40-man roster. You get paid more. You have some other privileges that come with that, or they don't protect you. They don't put you on that special higher roster, and then other teams have the ability to take you in like a draft.
Exactly. Yeah, so
So it's
I
it's an important year because then your team is going to decide, hey, we think highly of him. We want to keep him. We're going to put him on a bigger we're going to put him on the 40-man roster, which is a step above just a general minor league player, or we won't. But then other teams might be interested, so it's an opportunity um, for guys at that point.
yeah, and my thinking was like that's why they're inviting me to this because usually Instructs is for like and granted like the COVID year was different. Like they just wanted to see what the hell their players were doing all year. Um, but usually Instructs is like when you're there for a reason. Either you're a young prospect and they want to like, get to know you a little more. They want to give you something to work on because they see you maybe making a jump next year. Um, I think in my case, I think I was invited there as like a thought of like, hey, are we going to protect this guy or not? Um, and I showed up there and I was doing really well. I was like 92, 95. Like at that point, the hardest I'd thrown in my life. Um, and I was pitching really well. And then towards the end of Instructs, my elbow started barking for the first time, and they shut me down at the end. And the other reason why I thought that is because eventually some of the other guys that were there that were my age, they got protected, and like similar guys to me, like lefty pitcher. They only took one. No, um, it was
Fuck.
yeah, only one got protected.
The
Um,
rule. It's Rule 6.
yeah, it's Rule 6. You only take one lefty.
It's Rule 6. You guys don't fucking know that? Idiots.
So I kind of that's like hindsight. I'm like, oh, I think I was on the table to get protected, and so they see there's like a little thing going on my UCL. There's like, hey, like we don't think you need Tommy John right now. Like, let's rehab this conservatively. So we did normal rehab. Going into that next spring training of 21, still barking at me a little bit. And then I made it to my last outing of spring training. I was kind of hanging out with the Double A team. It seemed like I was about to break with them. And my last outing, I was actually throwing to a hoppy. He was catching, and I remember I threw the first inning. It was all right, and then the second inning, I remember going out, and the ball felt like a boulder. Like same ball, but like it just felt like 30 pounds heavier all of a sudden, and my elbow was on fire. So I get done with that. I end up having Tommy John uh, in May of that year. After 2021, though, I became a free agent, and that that was also halfway through my Tommy John rehab. So, like November, you officially become a free agent. They got to send me home, and I'm home doing my rehab on my own. And at this time, like I kind of know if I re-sign with somebody, it's probably going to be the Phillies at that moment. So I wouldn't say I rushed to get back, but I definitely sped over some bumps that were a little bit more serious than I gave them credit for being. Like, soreness and little things in my forearm that I should have either taken more time off for or just paid more attention to. Um, so I end up re-signing. I'm like 88 to 90 in like the following May, and I reach out to the Phillies. You know, let's do this. Basically, they re-sign me, and it's 2022 now, May, and the plan is like get me ready for like a month. Like I'm gonna spend June in Florida, then send me off, and we'll see what happens. So I get to my first live when I get there, like a few days after. And now this is my first time seeing hitters. I don't even know if like I don't know how that happened, but first time seeing hitters. All of a sudden I'm 92, 95
Since
again.
COVID,
Since
COVID of Instructs 20. Is
since
that correct?
2021 spring training.
Okay, okay. So
So now this is my
we're
first
over a year.
professional hitter. Yeah, over a year. And first outing goes great. I'm 92, 95, but immediately after, my shoulder and my elbow are just on fire. And then the next like month and a half, I'm just kind of chasing my tail of like trying to get my elbow to calm down, trying to get my shoulder to calm down. Shoulder calms down, but the elbow is still not good. And I had an outing when the new draft guys got there. I remember throwing a curveball and I felt something go in my forearm. Finished that outing, and they take me off. Or I after the outing, I told them like, "Hey, something's up." It was like a Friday, and like I kind of knew like the new draft guys just got there. I'm on a 1 year contract, like probably going home soon. Literally that Monday I come in, they're like, "Hey, we're gonna get you an MRI and everything and all that. We don't think you're gonna pitch this year though, so we're releasing you. It's just more of a business move, like, you know, like we just think you're hurt and we're gonna take care of it, but like, sorry." So I go home, I get an MRI that day in New York City, and they see a tear in my flexor. I PRP it and recover from that a little bit, start throwing, and now I'm a free agent again. We're going into 2023. I reach out to Team Italy in like December, and I'm like, "Hey,
Now, for people in 2023, how old are you?
2023, I
27?
am 20. Well, I'm 26, about to be 27. I turned 27 in December then.
So you're now like 9-ish years into pro ball after high school.
Yeah, yeah, eight, I think technically, right? 8, 9. Yeah, 9.
So you're well into the, like, you've been at this a while. This isn't like you're,
Yeah,
um, so like that you are now, just for people to have perspective, you are at this point 5, 6 years, even 7 years removed from the Nick Fanti that's in the GCL having a really good year and dad's coming down. You feel like you're letting him down. Like a lot has passed. We're starting to speed up how fast we're going through the story, but um, like you've been a pro for a long time at this point.
yeah. At this point, like it feels like like 2 years ago feels like yesterday right now, but like it this is like a big gap between like, when I first got there. Like I'm comfortable there. Like all I know in pro ball is the Phillies at this point. Like um and like Team Italy, like I know there's other stuff out there, and like that's kind of like what made me want to keep going after even I got released there, was like, hey, like from playing in Team Italy for Team Italy in 2017, you see all these guys that like they made careers for themselves in other countries and made money and stuff, and it's like, oh, there's other ways to make it in this game than just like making it to the big leagues. Um, so that's where my head was at the time, and it kind of still is. Like, I know there's other opportunities, and ultimately, I just want to get back and play the game for a period of time just to find out. Like, let's see what where I stack up with guys at this point. Um, So we're heading into 2023. Team Italy had just told me like, hey, you're probably not somebody that we're gonna take to World Baseball Classic. I did a pro day in New Jersey. I was going to Baseball Performance Center. Shout out Mike Adams, coach, and he I was throwing there, elbows barking still a little bit. But I had this pro day, and I throw in it. I threw really well. It was just like back to who I was, like 2 to 4, just look good. And now teams are following me again. That night, Team Italy calls me and they're like, "Hey, like you might start one of the games for us." And I was like, "Okay, cool. So I guess I'm going with you guys." Um, so things are starting to get rolling again. Um, other teams are interested. So we go out to Arizona with Team Italy, and I'm throwing to our hitters. Or actually, I had a bullpen a few days before. Um, and a few teams came there, some scouts, and they're watching me throw. They have radar on me, and you know, saying like, "Hey, man, like you got a shot to get picked up again. We want to see you pitch in a game first for Team Italy. Like whenever you go for the Classic, there might be an opportunity for you waiting when you get back." Like, all right, sweet. A few days later, again, elbow's not feeling the best. I'm thrown to our hitters the day before we're leaving for Taiwan, and I remember throwing I think this one was a changeup, feeling the knives in my elbow again. And again, I'm stubborn, so I finished that outing. And I ended up needing a flexor repair on my original Tommy John. Or, sorry, that doesn't make sense. So, original Tommy John's your UCL. Flexor repair is a tendon that goes over in the area of the UCL. So, that kind of came off the bone. So they needed to repair that back down to the bone and also tension the UCL because I guess whenever I tore it, they kind of lay on each other like this, and it kind of did that a little bit. So it started to tear the UCL again, but I guess they thought it was just still had some integrity, so they were able to just kind of like tension it, I guess is the word for it. So that was obviously a huge kick in the nuts, and I was in Arizona for a month after that, staying with some family friends. Shout out Judy and Bob. Um, they, you know, they kind of gave me a place to stay while I figured out what I was going to do next for that month. Um, at the time, I have no backup plan at all. So I end up getting surgery again with Dr. Alchek. Surgery goes well, seemingly. It was that one was in April, I think. Yeah, it was. So I end up doing some rehab on
In
Long
April
Island.
of what year? Just to
This is
so this
23,
will.
right?
Yeah.
2023.
Okay.
So I do some rehab on Long Island. Um, Probably up until, I mean, really up until like January, I was on Long Island. But in October, I think it was, once my throwing program started, I hooked up with Driveline and I was doing remote programming with them. Um, and I was working with their PTs and their throwing trainers. And in my head, I was just like, hey, this is my last shot. I'm gonna come back, probably play some indie ball, and like, see what happens. But like, I want to give myself the best opportunity. I think Driveline is the way to go. And so I kind of bet on myself a little bit, and then I went to Arizona in January. I stayed there for 6 months, just training out there and building up and kind of getting back to, being myself. And it's funny how like when you're going through it, it's like, and you're talking to people and, they hear about the surgeries and then they're just like, ah, man, like, I don't know how you're going to like do it. Like, they don't want guys that are hurt or injury prone, blah, 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 all this stuff. And, each time I kind of got back to being 100% or towards it and being myself, it's like they come back, they watch me, and obviously, as long as I'm putting out like a good product and being who I am, like, they're gonna keep coming back, I feel. So, but at the same time, like I want to make sure I gave myself every opportunity, because in my brain at the time, like the driveline thing was like me saying, "Hey, here's all my chips. Like, if this doesn't work, nothing's working, and this arm's just not meant to throw baseballs." Um, and I end up throwing harder than I ever have in my life. I would argue that like my stuff was as good, if not better, as it was in my life. Um, and I ended up signing with the Ducks in indie ball in last June in 2024. And I signed with the Ducks, and all of a sudden I get there, a few outings go by, I'm doing pitching well, and all of a sudden elbow starts to get cranky again. Um, and then had an outing against a team where uh, on Long Island, and I was probably there for 3 weeks, and felt it on a fastball. I threw a fastball and just felt it go, and I just knew it right away. And that was one where each one kind of had its own pitch that I can kind of remember. This one was the most vivid, and not just because it just happened. Like, it was just like the one where I was like, "Oh, this is the classic." Like when guys feel like the pop, the twitch, like the zing. Like I was like, that one was the one where, like, there really, like, yeah, my elbow wasn't the best, but like there wasn't so much build up to it. Like I remember feeling like my forearm went bloop bloop, and it just felt like a string like undid and redid itself, and I was like, oh, I tore my forearm again. I finished that outing as well, and
Yeah, hold on.
yeah,
You've told me this story before. You gotta walk us through
yeah,
that outing. You're just kind of like, yeah, I think my forearm blew and I finished the outing. Like,
it,
help us.
yeah. So it's funny how like when you're in the outing, again, this is one of those moments, kind of like the public speaking, when I did it, there wasn't much reaction outwardly, but in my brain, it was like a 5 minute conversation I had with myself, like, all right, like, you tore this thing. Um, fuck, what are we gonna do now? All right, so this is probably the last time you're gonna play professional baseball. You can try to finish it, or you can call, the trainer's name is Maggie. You can call Maggie out right now, and you know you'll be done. I was like, all right, like, this is the last one. Let's see what happens. And so I felt it on that whole inning. So the first inning, I start off on the hitter 3-0, the first guy, and um he ends up hitting a laser to right center field, and Jackie Bradley Jr. was playing center field, who is like freaking poetry in motion. Like, this guy is insane. Ran 150 feet to his left, made a miraculous catch. Like, it was unreal. The next guy gets up, everyone's still cheering from that, and I'm pretty sure it was the first pitch to him. First pitch, fastball, I think it was like 93, 94 too, and just felt it. So I have this 5 minute conversation in my head that was probably only like 2 seconds. Because, like, if you watch the video, the next pitch is like coming in already. Like it wasn't that long. So I throw a curveball the next pitch, first strike, and you could see like it took my whole body to throw it. And then the third pitch, I lob a fastball on the outside corner, and he chops it into the ground to my right. So I had to get off the mound going to my right, make a PFP, turn glove side, throw him out at first base. And that throw was like, I threw the hell out of it, but it did not feel good. And then the next batter, first pitch, pops up to, I think it was a fastball. Again, now my velocity is like down. It's like it went from like 93, 94 to like 87, 88, which is still, I give myself some credit for that, because I feel like that's still pretty hard to be thrown with a blown elbow. Um, and it goes up, and our catcher, wonderful. He was big league catcher. He just gets under it and he drops it, and he turns around and he's like, "Hey man, I'm sorry." I'm just like, in my head, like obviously like that stuff happens. I never get mad at like physical errors, but like in that moment I needed it. Like I really needed that one.
That's a fair statement.
like 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 I
He
will
didn't
never.
know either.
Yeah, like
There's no way he knew.
no, he had no idea. And I will never, like, I would never ever say anything to him, like, even to this day. Like, obviously, like, if he ever came across this, like, he would find out. But, like, he's wonderful catcher. Just in that moment, I needed it. Like, and thankfully, though, like, the next pitch, he ended up flying out to Jackie, and I got out of it. And I get back to the dugout, and the pitching coach, he goes, "You got another one?" Because, like, obviously, they don't know either. And I was like, "No, my something went that inning." And he goes, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's it. Like I think I blew something up right there." So uh I got an MRI the next day. I got told that you tore it right off the bone, and you know, your options are Tommy John or never play again, pretty much. Uh but again, like from the surgeon standpoint at the time, it was like, hey, this would be a revision. Um and revisions are not as much of a slam dunk as primary reconstruction or your first Tommy John surgery, is another way of saying that. Um,
They got
so
in there and they're like, dude, there's been a fucking war in here, bro.
yeah,
What
yeah,
the fuck?
like what the hell is going on in here? Someone else has been here many times.
Like this is seeing some action, huh?
Yeah, yeah. No, but it so I in my head I was like, okay, that's it. Like I think I'm done. Let's call it quits. And my parents kind of sat me down and were like, "Hey, like what you did for the Ducks, like you're still really good at this. Um, if you want to try again, like you have our full support." And I was like, and at the time they're telling me this, I'm just like, no, like just like I think I'm good. And there's like, how about you just think about it this summer? Because this was like July 9th it happened. Um, Take the summer off, think about it, mess around, go go crazy, like do your thing, and let's revisit this in like a month or two, see how you feel about it. I'm like, all right. So I set up a couple like follow-up visits to different doctors, and like another doctor told me like, wait, hang on, like there might be a chance here. Like I don't know if it's as bad as one may think. And then I saw the doctor who I ended up going with, Dr. Ahmad, and he's like, yeah, your UCL ends here and it's supposed to end here. So it's off the bone. And he did the cert, and I was like, okay, like, what do we got to do? He's like, well, I have this method. It's called like TJ3. It's like the newest iteration of Tommy John, I guess, where they do the brace, the reconstruction, and your original all glued together, and not actually glued. For
I
those
was
of you
gonna say like
listening,
Elmer's or like a
yeah.
Gorilla Glue kind of thing, or
At this point, I think mine's taped together, with that like little plastic tape.
a little
Um,
Scotch tape action.
yeah, a little Scotch tape. And he's like, it's proven to be really strong, and we'll see what happens when we get in there, kind of. And I was like, all right, if you go in there and like, I want the strongest version of what you could possibly do. Because you're like, for me, I was a candidate for the repair as well, which is just when they use the internal brace. So I was like, if you go in there and you're just like, hey, the repair is the best option, then let's do that. But if the other one is a better option, like the strongest, and you got to reconstruct and take the new one from my knee, like let's do it. And he went in there. He's like, "Yep, you got to get the full thing. You're gonna do the TJ3 operation." So I kind of left it to him, and he got in there and he was like, "Hey, nothing surprised me in there. Like what I saw in the MRI was pretty much what happened in there. And doing this repair, like I don't see a reason why you cannot get back to the point that you were at, given like obviously a clean rehab and all that stuff. Like, that's obviously important. But he was like, from a surgical standpoint, like you are fixed." And like that kind of gave me the confidence to be like, okay, like maybe I'll do this. But um, I did it under like the pretenses of like I'm going to be as busy as possible doing everything else just so I don't get in a mental rut like I was in my previous rehab. Because my previous rehab in Arizona, like I was just focused on rehab and baseball. And when that wasn't going well, I was miserable. And now in this process, like I started going to school at St. Joe's, right, Coach?
Golden Eagles.
Golden Eagles. I started going to school. I'm coaching in high school. I'm also doing my rehab and stuff. So it's a lot of things going on at once. And I'm also helping out Hop Hog Little League. I'm doing lessons with them and little team practices. It's been a lot going on, but it's also helping keep me sane. And even if I am having a bad week or arms a little extra sore, like, I'm okay letting it pass. Like there was times in the past where I got soreness and it was like each day I woke up like staring at it like, you good today? But now it's like, okay, I get sore and it's like, all right, I'm okay with giving myself 2 or 3 days. Like I'm not supposed to be ready yet. I'm only 8 months out of surgery. So it's just kind of one of the things I learned from going through it was, and this is something that a lot of people tell you, is like, find what you love to do other than baseball, because if you if you completely identify with baseball, and most of us all do, and it's taken away from you because of surgery, and you're just kind of riding your whole which I say, like your emotions on it every day, it's going to be a long, tough rehab. And I experienced that last year for sure. So like I wanted to make sure this one was as, not that it took a back seat, but it's not dictating the rest of my day all the time.
Yeah, which is, I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. We're talking about everything that you've been doing for your entire life and being around professional baseball for as long as you have. From the jump, though, like you talked about being 18 or 19 years old and having fears of maybe like a demotion or just being looked upon in a bad light by the organization from having a bad outing to, you know, getting to like the pinnacle of your success around the 2017 time to experiencing injuries after injuries and then, kind of coming back and getting to, like you kept mentioning, like getting back. I was back to the point where you were almost 100% or close to it. And then you threw all your chips in with the driveline experience, and it kind of seemed like it's kind of like an all or nothing type deal, which can feel, I would imagine, kind of desperate and kind of like, filled with like anxiety or anxious feelings, or that your last leg, so to speak. And I'm glad that you were able to have this last experience with, your most recent surgery where some confidence was instilled into you, and your strategy and your approach with this rehab seems to be, a much more pleasant experience by surrounding yourself with other things.
Yeah, and I don't think like, maybe it's not the recipe for everyone, but I think it just is for me. Um, I I feel that if I don't distract myself, then I'm not going to recover well, because I'm just going to be, again, like stress is probably part of the recovery process as well. And I'm just going to stress myself out over how this arm's feeling. When am I going to get back? You start counting backwards the months. Like, oh, like if I think I'm going to get back in May, and then I have a little 6 week setback that puts me in late June, early July, and then like I got to be perfect then. Like you start to do that. I think also like the seasonality of my injury too also played into that as well, being in that I got the surgery in September and like, okay, I'm supposed to miss the whole next year. Um, and then it just also makes me feel better from like just a life perspective to be knocking out some school. Like, you feel more productive about the time that you're away from rehab and away from throwing because realistically, like that's only like an hour and a half, 2 hours of your day. You got to fill the rest with something else.
Yeah, and there's a lot more to you, and listen, I know we're talking about baseball here. We're talking about the highs and lows of a very well decorated career up until this point, and I say up until this point because I personally love where you're at right now with the way you're talking about things and how you're feeling about what it is that you are trying to do. Um, but it seems that let's like I've talked to guys like yourself that have had, I wouldn't say similar experiences because yours is quite unique, but your experience in baseball, like you have so much more to your personality and your persona than baseball in general. Like from being friends with you for, you know, 20 years now, which is crazy to say, it makes me feel fucking old, but
Right?
like I know, yeah, it is. It's weird, but there's so much to Nick Fanti than being a thrower of baseballs, And when I think about your story up until this point, if it's not being a thrower of baseballs and it's being somebody that can, like you're doing right now, like helping others with your experience. Like I'm sure you being around the guys over at Hot Dog right now is very like it's pouring into your cup, so to speak. It's giving you energy, it's giving you life, it's giving you motivation, and like those kids over there they're quite lucky to be around somebody like yourself with the experiences that you've had and the successes that you've had and also the adversity that you've had. So for me, I'm glad that you get to, I guess, like experience yourself like this, because for people like myself that have known you for so long, it's like, yeah, fucking Nick Fanti is really good at baseball, but he's a dope friend that I like to, sit there and hang out with too. So I'm glad that you get to celebrate yourself in those ways too, and take care of some other things in your life.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's
You
a
really know how to make me feel good.
That's what I'm here for.
well, it's hard to follow that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what I was gonna say is, I mean, you're also doing this rehab at home where you have all these things, family and friends included, and some other support systems that are important, which is quite different from being at a complex with the Phillies or in Arizona with the other crew. So um, yeah, it's good. And when I was up there in the fall and we were hanging out occasionally, um, to Dwayne's point, it was the experience at Belding and the gym that we were training at was a blast when you were in. From the the dating stories to the bike challenges to the Nick is the type of person that will turn off the music and announce to a bunch of professional athletes that he just kissed a girl last night. Um, which is
That's so surprising.
It
all of a
doesn't
sudden the
happen
guys have an
often.
announcement and it's like, oh, like this is gonna be serious. And I kissed a girl last night.
Yeah. Yeah, it
um,
doesn't happen much. You know, even when I talk to them, I announce it.
well,
Spoke with a woman.
Yep, yep.
yeah,
I did
things like
it.
that at Chipotle visits.
Approach approach the other. The other sex.
W. And shout out to Belding. I don't know that guy, and I've never trained there or anything, but I've heard nothing but positive things coming out of that camp.
He's the best.
Yeah, I'll
I'm
be on.
I'm client number one. You better
Numero uno.
Yeah.
when you have him, just be like, hey, whenever you have number one, uh, just refer to me as number one until he gets it.
I got you. I got you. I heard number one's a good time over there. What's
And
what's he like?
how is he? Like who?
But it's sorry, but being somebody that has the experience playing and like the accolades that you have with the coaching experiences, like what's that been like for you? Because you've
It
like been a coach as a player, like you talked about in 2020, and I personally had coaching experience as a player, but it was obviously much different where it was like did you seek out coaching? Was that something that you gained interest in doing as you got older? Or is that just like, listen, let me just try to be around baseball while I can't play or something like that in 2020?
Yeah, I think it was mostly an attempt to just be around baseball, and then um, I also like any excuse to at the time it was like, hey, it's like the only form of civilization of like people allowing to get in one place together. And then obviously just like the crew we had, not even so much the kids, like me, KB, and Pesci, like we hit it off right away, and it was just a blast of a summer. Specifically, like as that's grown, and I start to get comfortable, like you know, talking to talking to people, teaching them, like I I started to realize like it is so important to be surrounded by uh people you trust, like in that realm, other coaching staff, like when we're speaking the same language, like it it feels a lot better, than when you have a few guys that are kind of doing their own thing. That's like kind of the thing we have going at Hop Hog right now is, we got four guys in the dugout, but we all kind of say the same stuff. And, when one guy speaks, the rest don't have to because we were all going to say that, like it's just like a uh, really good environment like that. And also just getting to connect with the kids, help them out, offer little tips here and there that end up making a big difference. And also like I'm doing my throwing program with them, and what I realize is like they watch the shit I do. Um, I'll turn around and see them like doing my band program that I'll do, or one of the days I was doing reverse bear crawls just because I like it. Like I like the way it makes my upper back feel. Like it kind of warms me up quick. And the Monday guy's next start, he's doing reverse bear crawls in the outfield, and I'm like, all right, like it holds you accountable in a way as well.
Yeah, it's a good way to describe that. And it's when you see somebody that has had success doing something, again, like everything is not for everybody, but it's cool to see the imprint that you leave, like in the way that you are accountable, because then I'm sure that guy's doing that on some sort of a consistent basis because he obviously, like, I'm sure if it fucking felt like shit for him, he wouldn't be doing it, but obviously, he saw you doing it, he started doing it, he feels good when he does it, so it works for him too.
Yeah, and just to do it like back at Hop Hog, like there's just a little extra something there for me where it's like, you know, like I really want the best for these kids because like
Yeah.
they're me. Like I went through the same program, and um, I have an open bias towards Hop Hog people, so
They're
I'm
always so happy.
I'm okay with saying that. It's just um, even working with the little leaguers, like I to me like that's kind of becoming like my favorite form of baseball because it's just like so pure. Like they make adorable mistakes. Like it's just it's awesome to me.
That's cool. That's cool, man. I'm glad that you're having that kind of an experience. That's I mean, for me, I have experiences like that too, and especially going from coaching college guys to going in and doing a lesson with a 7-year-old, it's like it's very refreshing, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, like when and it helps. It definitely is some of the moments for me that like help revive my love for baseball as well. Because I need that in these times as well. Like whenever I'm going through the surgeries or tough times, I've had like two distinct moments where like baseball just kind of got refreshed for me. The first time was, you know, whenever coming off of COVID was whenever Corey Phelan signed with the Phillies, and you know, me and him were super close, and whatever I did, he did, and he just had like a different excitement about him, especially whenever we went to Instructs in 2020. Like he just thought it was, by then for me, like I had been around it for 5, 6 years. Like it got, not that it got old, but you get numb to it. And he was just like, this is so cool. We're in the same locker room as like, you know, Jimmy Rollins was here, Ryan Howard was here, like all these guys, Bryce Harper comes here. Like, he had that excitement, and that kind of refreshed me at first. And then the next time it happened was like this year working with the little leaguers at Hot Pog was
I had
just
a
like how much
similar
fun they have.
experience with Corey, where he he'd asked me about the Astros and like what it's like in spring training and like where the complex is and just how things are, and me and my coaching, like he was always very interested, and him and I would actually throw quite a bit. Like he'd be like, hey, like I need to throw on Tuesday, and you might have been out of town or something, and I was like, I'll throw. Like I gotta stay in throwing shape. And we'd throw, and we'd be like trying to hit the crossbar at Center Island,
Hmm.
and doing stuff, and it was just like it was just fun. Like he was getting his work in. It wasn't like we were goofing off or anything, not even a little bit, but it was like it was. I felt the same way when I was 17, and I would do that with Anthony Kay. The
Yeah.
two of us were in high school, and we would just be throwing and be like, "How far can we go?" And be like silly stuff. Except I'm, 26, 27, a coach, and he's just in pro ball, but it was the same experience.
Hmm. Yeah, it was like that whole summer too was throwing with him, and we were doing the same thing, like going the whole football field, seeing how far we could throw it, and like everything was like a game, and we were competing against each other. And then like eventually into to Belding, we would give each other a lot of crap, and we ended up doing we call it the Olympics, and we were it would be me versus him in the we would have 5 events, and the first year, both years actually we did it, he beat me.
Get beat.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do, man? Sometimes you get beat.
Yeah, we had like all these games. He was alarmingly good at all of them too. Like they were all like backyard like stuff, and he was just way too good at this stuff. I think I'm not gonna name names, but I think some people named Logan O'Hoppe and Adam Belding made him aware of some of the events that we were doing, and he practiced at home. And
Not gonna name names.
well, I didn't know.
Not gonna name
Not
names.
gonna name any, but I think there was some bias going on.
Fuck you, Nick. You're a sore loser.
Yeah.
Uh, well, dude, I look forward to hearing about your guys' success over at Hot Pog. I know you guys are having a good year, have a good team this year. You guys playing again this week?
Yeah, we play again tomorrow. We're going
Nice.
to West Hampton tomorrow.
Nice. Yeah, try to fucking not make it such a nail biter, huh?
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Well, I know that it's late, and I appreciate you being on with us for so long. I know that we could probably fucking go for another 4 hours. It's crazy that it's been like 3.5 hours at this point, but I think this is a good place to stop, and I think it's easy to say that we'll have you on again probably some point this summer. You could update us on your progress and what the plan is moving forward.
Absolutely. Please.
We could die because what I want to do, I want to talk more about your coaching experiences throughout this season. So we'll probably check in with you post high school season, what that was like for you overall, and then kind of get a little bit of an update on what you got moving forward. Or you know what, if you want to fucking just talk about what your feel is on the whole baseball world in general, you want to go back, take a zoomed out zoomed out episode on what you think about baseball right now, how it is, whether professionally, at the amateur level, getting some experience, seeing it from a coaching, youth level, all those things. I'd love to hear your takes on those things, but I appreciate you taking the time to talk so in depth about your experience.
I appreciate it. I don't think I ever really like got in the weeds about about it the way we did today. So I appreciate you guys having me on, and I look forward to all your episodes. And I think I've listened to about half of them at this point.
Well, we're all gonna enjoy listening to this one again,
Yeah,
and I
and I'm
appreciate you
honored.
laying out the whole story. Of course, you're on the short list of people that we had in mind when we were throwing out names of who to have on this when we were first getting the whole thing going. Um, and yeah, thanks so much. The people got, we give the people what they need, but I think this is one that they wanted. So on that note, we'll say goodnight and thank you again.
Good night,
Go
boys.
Eagles.
Golden Eagles.